Coming to you from Blue Crew Studio in Temecula, California, it's the Whiskey Throttle Show, taking you inside the lives and careers of the legends and leaders of action sports. Today's guest is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha is the industry leader in 2- and 4-wheel fun and performance. Motocross, off-road, adventure, side-by-side, Yamaha sets the standard. Yamaha revs your heart. The Whiskey Throttle Show is presented by Motorsport.com. It doesn't matter if you like to pull a throttle cable on a dirt bike, street bike, side-by-side. Motorsport.com is putting riders first with parts, gear, and accessories, including some of our partners like Troy Lee Designs, Dunlop, Pro Circuit, and more. They offer first returns free on apparel so you can buy with confidence. And Motorsport.com offers fast, free shipping on all orders over $79. Make your next ride your best ride. Visit Motorsport.com. Troy Lee made a name for himself as the most elite helmet painter in all forms of motorsport racing. His ability to make a stationary object look fast is something rare. That creativity gave way to motocross and mountain bike gear, helmets, and an arsenal of protective equipment aimed at keeping racers on the track and out of a doctor's office. The 2025 TLD line is out, and it's as fast as ever. Troy Lee Designs, blending speed and style. Hey guys, welcome to the Whiskey Throttle Show. We're here in Blue Crew Studio with a good buddy of mine, somebody I've been wanting to get on for a long time. And I was talking last night with my wife, and a lot of my 20s was with you. Like, man, we spent a lot of time together. And so I'm really stoked to have you on, bud. Jiri Dostal, folks from my era, our era, will remember the name, obviously. And you had a pretty good career, man. Supercross podiums. Hard to argue with that.
One.
Hey,
yeah,
we'll call it.
And
we'll just,
I guess when we get to that point, I got pretty lucky with that one too. But I'll take it.
You'll take it. Well, welcome to the show, man. We start everything here with the Motorsport.com gate drop. Guys, anything you need for your bike, street bike, dirt bike, side-by-side, go to Motorsport.com and get it. There's a giveaway going on. They do 2 a year. You can win a motorcycle at the end of this thing. There's all kinds of prizes. So go check it out. Sign up. Motorsport.com/win. But all kinds of cool stuff over there. We're stoked to have their support of the show. So, Jiri, where are you at today? Job, fam, give me the whole breakdown. I think a lot of people are like, man, where's this guy been?
Yeah.
And what's going on with this mustache? And, they're not trying to put it together.
Yeah. I mean, I work for the fire department these days. It's kind of like you.
Yep.
I remember getting into it, what was it, back in 2008, I think? Like, we were both still riding.
Yeah, we'll cover. I want to talk about it because I forgot A&P. I forgot all that stuff that we did together.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're with a fire agency here in Southern California now, and have been for how many years? How many years have you been on?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Working as an engineer paramedic. Been 10 years on the job now.
Okay.
And yeah, full time with the family.
And how long are you married?
Fiance.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I pretty much call her my wife. You know, we've been together 13 years.
Yeah.
Been through a lot together. She's stuck by my side. Amazing woman. We have 4 kids, 4 dogs. So it's just work and family.
Wait, 4 kids? You have 4?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jiri.
Yeah. 4. I got twin 4-year-olds. I got my son's 12, and then the oldest is 20. My stepson, Gavin.
Oh, he's a stepson.
Yeah,
okay, I was going to say, I'm going to have to leave you with a box of condoms when you leave today.
Right, yeah. Snip, snip. It's time to go see a doctor.
That's cool, though, man.
No, it's all good.
And she's a hairstylist, so our lives are kind of mirroring each other.
Similar, yeah, I know.
That's awesome. And
I mean, the typical is a fireman and a nurse, right? Well, that's like
that is the standard.
But yeah. So
you got to laugh when you go into a hospital, do a follow up, and the firemen kind of puff up when they see the nurses. You know,
yeah, they're in their turnouts and they're they're puffing their chest out for sure,
being all badass. Well, we're going to talk more about all that stuff, but you don't ride much anymore. You broke your neck not once but twice. I was there for one of them. We're going to talk about all that too. But do you still follow racing at all?
Oh,
you kind of said you've lost touch with a lot of the industry people, but
I think it happens over time, right? Like
totally.
Everybody, you know, it's like you get slapped in the face with reality, like after racing. What am I going to do? I mean, we kind of had a backup plan, but it still took a lot of hoops and a lot of work to get there. You know what I mean? And you just lose touch. I mean, you get busy and life is kind of hectic and crazy. And so,
but you follow it still pretty close?
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like a super fan now.
Okay.
I watch every race like religiously. Don't miss a race. And
what's your thoughts? Because I like to get people's opinions who were involved in it like you were, and then now don't have really contact with it, but watch it. And what do you see as far as the show and the tracks and just racing in general? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, they've definitely. I think they've improved like the I guess the show aspect of it. Yeah, just all the pageantry, the lights, and the commentating's good. You know, I love listening to Thomas, Jason Thomas. I think he does an amazing job.
Yep.
I mean, great analysis. It's not even just that. I think it's just how fast these guys are going. You know, like the technique.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch Jet Lawrence ride and it blows my mind.
It's incredible.
Because you see him out there like 20 seconds ahead of everybody, right? And then he doesn't look like he's going that fast, you know, and people say that all the time. But then when you see other riders around him and their freaking legs are like flying off the pegs and they're just hanging it out of control, and looks like he's just cruising, you know?
Yeah, and there was, I don't want to hurt any feelings here, but how do I say this? But like there's other eras where guys were winning a lot, and some of them didn't have the competition that I think Jet does. Like, it's a deep field behind him.
I mean, it's like almost everybody's won a championship. I mean,
they've all won a championship. They're all factory.
Yeah.
And if you go back into the 90s, that wasn't really the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's no disrespect to anybody, but
No,
like
100%.
I'm just saying,
just being real.
Jet is making it look easy against an incredible field.
100%. Yeah.
It's really. I don't think he gets credit, and people hate on him for some reason. Like he gets a lot of just hate, and I think it's so weird. But
yeah, and also too, it seems like, you know, you pay attention to these things being a former racer, and like just his mental aspect, like just so composed, and you can tell like he's got it figured out. Like to me, he's not cocky, just confident, and you can just tell like up here he's got it together, you know, and on top of the talent. And it's like kind of a once in a generation kind of deal, you know, for someone like that to come along. But
yeah, and you know, like the interesting thing is he didn't just come out of amateur racing and was winning everything. You know, he put in a little bit of time here figuring it out.
Yeah. They went to Europe and did the whole deal over there.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't like just dominating everything right away. He kind of grew into this. And I think that's what – so I guess Dungey was the same way, although he wasn't as dominant. But
yeah, because I don't think he had like a spectacular amateur career or anything like that.
No.
Dungey, you know?
No. But so how do you get mentally to a place where he is where, like you said, I don't think I've ever seen him stressed.
Yeah.
I mean,
or
you're talking about a guy who he'll
Yeah.
let people go by. Remember that when he did that with Ken, which – didn't matter or whatever, but like, he just is like, I don't know, man, no stress watching him ride.
That's
crazy.
kind of like, that's kind of just playing mind games a little bit.
Yeah.
But
well,
either way, it's fun to watch.
What about the tracks? I sometimes I go, man, I swear the tracks were like more technical, steeper, tighter, not built as well. Like you could tell the track builders didn't have it down like we do now. But I feel like now that everything is like so smooth and kind of flatter, so they're carrying way more speed through stuff.
100%, yeah.
And I feel like
I think
they want to make it safer. I feel like you're making
better
the speed
racing,
higher.
right? Parity. They don't want, like, when you build, like, back in the day, you used to watch Stewart on a 2-stroke, and like the types of tracks you're talking about, all the steep freaking rhythm sections that were all rutted out, and he's quadding, you know. And I feel like, I don't know, I could be wrong.
They're trying to keep it tight.
I think, yeah, it's just, you know, better racing makes better ratings, makes for better TV, you know. So who knows? Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, cool. Good to hear you're still following it close. Hey, guys, get over to WhiskeyThrottleMedia.com. We've got moto off-road content over there, moto and off-road, plus all these shows, all kinds of rad stuff over there. All of our live events, you can buy tickets there. So it's our home base. Check it out. Let's get to our guest story. It's brought to you by Yamaha. Get on a blue bike. I guess 70 anniversaries for year anniversary for Yamaha. It's going to be red and white.
Oh, yeah?
But for next
year. Is that their OG colors? Or?
Oh, that's what they're kind of doing, their 70th anniversary throwback colors. They look pretty sweet. But congrats and happy birthday to Yamaha. All right, so let's start off here, buddy. Tell me where you grew up. Czechko. Were you born in Czech?
Born in Czech, yeah.
Where in Czech?
Česká Lípa. It's a little town. It's like...
Not Brno?
Not Brno, no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a I don't know. I think it's northern Czech, somewhere up there.
Was it Czechoslovakia at the time?
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
It was communist back then.
God, you're a commie. You commie bastard.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, America now. It took me a long time to get my citizenship. I think I waited
Did it
till I was
really?
27, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a story about that later. But
Okay.
yeah, so born in the Czech Republic. I don't remember much, you know.
How young were you when you came over?
Like 4 or 5, something like that.
What memories do you have back there?
Not much.
Really
I look
not
at some
much.
old pictures. I do have one memory. So my grandpa on my mom's side, my mom's dad, he was a mechanic. And so it was me and my sister, and I had to be 4 years old, and she was like a year and a half younger than me. And so he had a bunch of old cars, you know. Right in front of his garage, there was like a little downhill slope. And for some reason, I don't know what compelled me to do it. Like, I'm a little 4-year-old Jiri, like hop in the driver's seat, get the thing in neutral, and my sister's in there with me, and just crash right into the garage, you know. And I remember everyone like panicking, running over, like, oh my God. But I think I got spanked or got my butt kicked for that one. But
What was the plan?
I don't know.
Just throw her in neutral, see what happens.
Just send it. Yeah. I couldn't reach the pedal. You know, I don't think I knew how to start it. I'm like, I'm just gonna play with stick shift here and see what happens. So
That's a good one.
Yeah. So and then we ended up. I think we ended up in like a refugee camp because we had to escape. You know.
Yeah. How does that work, dude? I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included. I mean, you know, you read about it, but like you guys were living it.
Yeah.
You can't just go, you know what, I'm tired of this place, I'm out.
Yeah.
You guys had to escape. Like, how does that work?
Somehow my dad had a connection with somebody, you know what I mean? And they kind of snuck us out. I'm not sure the details on how we got. I think we ended up in Yugoslavia, which I think is Croatia now. Mm-hmm. It was like a refugee camp. And I remember like talking to my dad about this a little bit. And we had an option to either go to Australia or America. And he picked America. You know, I'm like, would have been pretty sick to go to Australia, you know, like grow up there in the 80s and 90s.
You'd have an Australian accent, dude. You'd be full on.
A Czech Australian accent.
Yeah, that'd be dialed.
Yeah, anomaly right there.
And so your dad, what was his, I know you drove heavy equipment like water trucks and stuff here, right?
Yeah, over there, like before we immigrated, I guess, for lack of a better word, he was like a butcher.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know
he
that.
worked like at this big, I don't know what you call them, butchery or whatever, like this big meat market or like, and he was like the head butcher. And I just remember him telling me, you know, and he had like, we had a nice car, a nice house over there. It's not like we were living oppressed or like third world or anything like that. It was just more like kind of how it's becoming here. You know what I mean? Just like totally regulated.
So is that why you guys wanted out? I
think it was just like,
this is the problem with communism and socialism. It's like the government just gets so big and powerful. Like you're just under their thumb all the time. And that was what was so cool about America. We said, nope.
Yeah. I think there's something living in a country where you're not allowed to freely come and go, right? And I think there's just something like inherently like people want freedom and people want to make their own choices. And there might have been like some family stuff going on, you know, like there was some drama. Mm-hmm. So he decided like, hey, I'm, you know, packing up my family, which is crazy because he didn't know the language. I think my mom knew English a little bit.
I was going to ask you. So he couldn't, did
Back
you guys,
then, he barely spoke any English back. I mean, he barely does now. You know what I mean? But it's even worse now because he's lived in Czech for like 20 years.
It's gotten thicker.
Yeah. They moved back in like 2004. So he's come out a few times and he struggles, but
because he probably doesn't speak it at all.
Yeah. So he didn't know the language. My mom did a little bit. We ended up in this refugee
She was a nurse, right?
She was like an LVN. She worked at Menifee Hospital forever. She worked there for like 20 something years. But we just ended up in the refugee camp, and I think the first place.
Do you remember anything from that?
Not. I remember getting stung by a bee and like my freaking face swelling up.
Just like little snippets of
just
things.
Just an anaphylactic reaction, no big deal. Like almost died.
Dad probably gave you some moonshine. Said, you'll be
right. Just a cigarette moonshine here. Fix every little vodka.
Yeah.
But we ended up. I just remember the first place we lived was Idaho Falls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We ended up in Idaho Falls. And then from there, we were in Iowa, out of all places, because I think we had like some second distant cousins out there.
Okay.
And then we moved out there, and I don't know if my parents just didn't like it or whatever. I was like 5. I don't remember much. And then we ended up in California. Pretty much been here ever since, like, I don't know, 87 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And was he into butcher business still, or did he
over here? No, I think his first job was picking potatoes in Idaho.
Okay. So he was just like whatever it takes.
Yeah. He was just him. He was just a hustler. He would just do whatever it took.
Oh my gosh, your dad's the best, man.
Yeah.
I anyone that knows him, and
he's one of a kind for sure.
One of a kind.
Yeah.
I love your dad.
Hard nosed, old school.
Yeah.
No, he ended up driving. I think it was semi trucks.
I just remember heavy equipment. Because he had a water truck company, I thought, or ran a water truck, right?
I know by the time we got to California, we were living in El Cajon, like living in this little apartment. And I think he was driving for like Stater Brothers. And I have no idea how he got his CDL.
Well, it's probably looser back then. I mean, I'm sure it was, not all the regulation we have today.
Yeah. I just remember him telling me stories of driving the 18-wheeler across country and just have no clue where he's going. He had a deadline, he's got to get the load from point A to point B, like somewhere in Texas, and he's trying to use a map book. I don't even know if they have like Thomas guides back then or anything.
Probably just a big paper map.
Yeah, big paper map. And he was like telling me how many times he was just like, dude, I have no idea where I'm at, no idea where I'm going, could barely talk to anybody, and just made it happen somehow. It was just him. He just made it happen.
That was that generation, dude. I lost my dad about 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that.
And I just was always blown away that he could just do anything. And I feel like your dad was the same way. If you needed to pull an engine out of a car, he's like, okay, I get tools, we do.
Or you find somebody that go find somebody that can, like you network.
Just resourceful, because you had to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't move to a country where you don't know anybody and don't speak the language and just cruise. Like,
and never complain. It's crazy, like having the perspective looking back, like all the sacrifice they did for us. And like we know how it is with our full-time job. We feel like you have no time, but they just made it happen. You know what I mean? Like,
you earn a new respect for them.
100%.
I think that's normal, right?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my girls when they have their house and they are yelling and complaining because their kids are being messy. I want to be like, you little bastard. You did this to my house every day.
Every day. I'm dealing with that right now.
Well, if anybody that has kids it's tough. So when you got here, what were you into? How was fitting into school? I mean, did you speak any English?
Yeah, it was easy for me, because I was just learning how to speak as a kid. Anyways, I was pretty young, from like 4 years old. You're still learning. I was speaking Czech, and then I think just by going to school and with my mom, I just learned the language pretty quickly.
Okay.
So I don't remember it being a struggle, or I didn't have like language barrier issues, in school or anything like that.
Okay.
I think it did take me a little while, like in school, to kind of comprehend, just because the way the Czech language works is completely different, and like I'm used to my parents speaking to me. So, but yeah, it wasn't too hard to transition. I think if I was older, you see some of these guys, like I even have coworkers of mine now that lived in like Venezuela and they moved over here when they were 18 years old or 20 years old, they still have like an accent. It's a little more difficult for them, but
well, I always laugh at DeCoster.
Yeah.
The guy's been in America how many years? He sounds like he just got off the plane from Brussels.
Yeah.
Luxembourg,
Yeah.
Okay, and you had one sister, Katie, and she passed away. We were just talking about that. Super
I
sad
think
deal.
a lot of people from the racing industry remember her, you know, like all the amateur races and like you grew up with a, you know, like an era, like you said, a group of guys, and you all get to know each other's families and siblings and parents and stuff, you know. So yeah, super sad deal, man, back in 2020. And we can get into that later too, because that was like so many things happened in a row, you know, like it was definitely a hard time.
Yeah, you definitely had some hits, you know.
Yeah,
that was
100%.
one of them. So yeah, super sad about her. I remember Casey Johnson used to hit on her all the time.
Yeah. Well, he'd hit on everybody. Yeah.
But he was such a Casey, man.
Yeah.
Goofball, but anyway.
Yeah.
So when you were really...
total man whore.
Total man whore. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
He had his moments. When you were really young, before moto, did you do any other sports?
I tried it. I think I tried t-ball, hated it, you know.
Okay.
Maybe a little soccer, a little football.
Yeah.
Didn't like it. And basically once my dad bought me my first bike, it was game over. That's all I wanted to do.
And did he race? How did you guys get into?
So he was best friends with Jaroslav Falta.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. He would always talk about Falta.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was like his hero and best friend too. I think they grew up in the same town and they like knew each other from little kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they grew up in like a town or village or whatever you want to call it.
And for people who don't know, Jaroslav Falta was one of the guys who brought motocross to America.
Yeah.
He was a big part of that.
He won, I think, the first like
Supercross in the Coliseum?
At the Coliseum,
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
back in like, I don't know, had to be like 72 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he would help me out too. You know, he'd come out and like old school training, like when you watch Rocky, you know, and like they're
Pick that log up, run.
I just remember like, you know, the stick with like doing the arm pump drill, you know, like
training your arms to pump up.
Yeah, training your arms to pump up, like, just
That's
doing
funny.
like old school freaking army workouts, you know,
Yeah.
like, because all those guys had to do 2 years in the army, you know what I mean? I think that's where like, they just took their fitness routine from them and incorporated that into their motocross routine.
Did your dad do 2 years in the Army too?
Yeah, they all had to do like a mandatory 2 years. So, yeah.
I don't mind that. You know, like I know France does that too.
To this day, they
I
still
think
do?
so.
Really?
DV had to join, you know, and he was like I think he got it shortened because he was like on a fast track to be a professional athlete.
Yeah, yeah.
But he still had to sign up and go through some basic part of it, you know.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like patriotic, you know.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
think it shows you some commitment to your country, and
turn this ringer off.
we're dang sure missing that right now in the U.S. anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
So you got a bike. What was your first bike?
I think it was like a little YZ80. I think there's a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got some cool
I don't
photos.
remember what year it was. Yeah, that was the first bike because it was like it didn't even have like, you know, a swing arm with linkage or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
And
what year would that have been?
it had to be around like I would say 86, 87 probably.
Okay.
And we'd just go out to Palm Avenue. You know, I remember showing you the picture of like the little hatchback car with the trunk open and then going down the 805 with the wheel flopping in the air, you know. But yeah, we would just go out there and just rip around and just have fun riding.
Palm Avenue's gone, dude.
Yeah, I know.
It's all just built out. It's so sad.
It is. It's all industrial out there now. And I didn't realize how close it was to the border back then. You know, it's like right there.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I've gone to a couple concerts at that. Used to be the Coors Amphitheater. What is
Yeah.
it now? Whatever it's called.
The Chula Vista.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amphitheater or something down there.
That was on the edge of Palm Avenue.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It was all right there, huh?
I didn't put all that together till the last time I went down,
Yeah.
and we're going to see Creed there next month, actually. My girls, this is how weird is this?
Arms
My
wide
kids
open.
asked me if we could go to that concert.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, my lady loves Creed.
hell yeah, we can. Let's
yeah,
go. So anyway,
Bringing it back.
yeah, rabbit hole there. But your dad didn't race. He was just buddies with Falta. Got you into riding. Did you guys just kind of ride for fun, or did you start racing right away?
Just rode for fun. And,
Yeah.
you know, he would travel. He didn't ride. My dad, you know, he didn't like race or anything, but he would just travel with Falta, like in Czech, to all the races. And I don't think he was able to go like out of the country. But yeah, he loved the sport, you know, and that's pretty much who got me into it.
Yeah.
So,
How did Falta travel? You have to get some license to leave the country if he was.
well, I mean, he was like competitive, right? He was winning, and
Yeah.
so I'm sure.
But
like,
the country
you know,
lets him out for
yeah,
that?
for sure, because he was representing the country in a lot of those races. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I don't know what kind of special like pass or visa or something he had, like a work visa or maybe.
Huh.
But they would let him, yeah, because they knew he was, you know, like a good athlete and representing their country. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's wild. You hear, I've had guys on this show like Brad Lackey and guys that raced GPs back when there was Soviet countries, communist countries, and they'll tell stories about like sneaking stuff out in a car or they're in a trunk, and I'm like, bro, they would have shot you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Like
maybe
firing squad. Or,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, who knows? Or just at least prison forever.
Crazy, man.
Put you at the Black Dolphin in there.
Yeah, this one guy, I have to go back. I can't remember who it was, but they were not stealing, but like these crystals. Is it Schwarzkopf? Crystals.
Yeah.
The
Hot commodity. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they smuggle them out. I'm just like, bro.
Were they slinging them on the side? Is that what they were
I
doing?
don't know. I think it was payment.
Side hustle. Yeah.
Payment for the race. I don't know, something like that. Anyway.
That's rad though. It's crazy.
When did you get into racing?
So CR80 or CR60 was the first,
real
bike.
Okay,
yeah. So the CR60, because I remember just being like, oh my God, thing has linkage and like it's got a rear shock. Like thing was like state of the art to me. Yeah, legit.
And were you guys still in San Diego at this time?
Yeah, we're living in El Cajon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first place was Barona Oaks. You remember that place back in the day?
It's open again.
Is it? Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you a story about that later too. I actually went on a fire there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, like 2 years ago. And so
this is where folks of our era will remember this, but that's where they shot all the Dukes of Hazzard stuff. All the dirt driving scenes. That's all on the Barona Indian
property
res.
there. Yeah, that's
Barona
crazy.
Indian res.
Well, they still have the drag strip up there and everything too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I haven't been down there forever, but I know they've redone the track and kind of expanded it. And
hard packed, shitty dirt, but
I can't complain at this point. Any track's better than all of them going away.
That's true. Started there.
So your first race was at Barona?
I think like the first year of racing was there. And I remember like they had.
And what year would it have been?
Maybe 88, 89, somewhere in there. And it was like the CMC or CMMC, right?
Yeah.
California Mini Motorcycle Club.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like it, I didn't even know anything else existed because you had like all the like usual suspects. I remember Dustin Nelson. Remember him?
Yeah. Was Dana Wiggins racing back then? Remember Dana Wiggins on an 80 Suzuki being really fast?
I think he might have been a little older,
like
guys in my era, but I just remember him like Dustin Nelson rocking the #1 plate,
Yeah.
Just throwing whips over the finish line tabletop, just like my mind blown, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I brought him up too because my first race, I remember getting beat by his sister, Jennifer Nelson.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I came in dead last, just getting lapped, getting smoked. And then I pull off the track and I'm like crying because I'm like, I got beat by a girl, like not stoked. But
what was Dad saying?
Like just told me to shut up, like go faster. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like you really enjoyed your first race.
No,
Dad just kept you going.
Yeah, and I wanted to keep riding. I was hooked. And so
who were you?
Progressed from there.
So when did you move out of El Cajon? Like, were you down there for a while?
Yeah, we were down there.
I don't remember you guys living down there, but I mean,
that was way back in the day. We lived there until I think 1990, 91.
Okay.
So we lived in like two different areas in El Cajon, and we lived in apartments. And I remember we bought my first 80 was from Ted Metzger.
Okay.
And so I don't know, like they had a bike for sale, my dad, Cycle World, Cycle
Trader.
Cycle Trader. That's what it was. I think he probably found it on Cycle Trader back in the day, and drove up, met Ted Metzger, I remember that bike sitting in our living room at the apartment. We didn't have a garage to put it in. Smelled like gas in there, in our house, but
all Bill's pipes and what was the guy that did his helmets?
Joe. Was it
Joe Schmo?
Joe Schmo.
Yeah,
it was Joe
Schmo Design.
He ended up painting one of my helmets too. I remember like having the first painted helmet, like being so stoked,
Oh, it was such a big deal.
It was. It was a huge deal.
Because Troy had made painted helmets. That was just a status symbol. Like if you had a painted, especially Troy Designs, it was like, you only could have that if you were a full factory guy.
Yeah.
So I had a guy in Arizona painting mine, and it, was pretty good. But like,
no, that was a big deal.
You'd be
back
so
then.
pumped.
Yeah, so pumped.
Because otherwise, you're in a cue ball.
Yeah, that was it. Or just like your two-tone stock color, standard color, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, it was around 1990. We moved out to like Sun City, and then ultimately ended up renting a house that Ted Metzger built in Quail Valley.
Is that where the house I remember?
The yellow house. It was the yellow house, and later on, Mike ended up living in that house. But we, our family rented it out from them for a couple years, before we bought our house over there. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm talking about in Quail Valley.
Okay. Yeah. It wasn't too far from there. So.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Cool. So did you have a crew that you rode with down there, or were you guys pretty just kind of solo, like down in San Diego?
No, kind of solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was like just starting to get into it. You know what I mean? Just like getting into the racing scene. So we didn't know too many people, and I think all the practice tracks were like just Palm Avenue, and it was just out, or like Lakeside. There was like random tracks in the side of the hills, you know.
You were El Cajon zone, dude.
Back then, yeah.
So who were, I mean, you mentioned Dustin Nelson, but who else was like the fast kids in that area at the time? I
don't know if you remember Josh Tarantino.
Oh,
remember him?
Yeah.
Like he was pretty fast. Like Andy Harrington. God, I can't remember if Chris Wheeler, like a lot of those Barona guys too, a lot of those like El Cajon zone guys, and they're all pretty fast, man. Yeah.
You get comfortable if you're comfortable in your little world, right? Like there'd be guys that go fast at Barona, but you took them to Glen Helen, and it was different story, right?
Yeah, kind of like if you remember Donald Upton at Paris.
Oh yeah,
remember that? The King of Paris, dude.
Don Upton will come up later because I think he had an influence on both of us getting into the fire service.
Yeah,
he was the first guy
that
I knew to really do it.
Yeah, he did. He just like committed, and he went to paramedic school, and like for anybody that doesn't know, like paramedic school is not easy. You know what I mean? Like it takes up a whole year of your life. Like you got to be committed to it. So
yeah. So what about pros at the time? Was there anybody you looked up to?
Yeah, it was Rick Johnson.
RJ.
I mean, this is obviously late.
Did you ever see him out at Palm?
Yeah, I did. I remember like just stopping riding and watching him, and like those tracks were just rough and hammered and dusty, and out there middle of summer, it's 105 degrees, and he's just out there shredding, So.
Do you remember that feeling of seeing him? Because I lived in Arizona at the time. Obviously, when I lived in Montana, I didn't see any pros, high-level pros. But when I moved to Arizona, 87, 88, he came over and did a race. Honda would come over to Canyon Raceway. Do you remember that place in Arizona?
Did they do races there?
Yeah.
I think I raced there.
They used to have a Cycle Am Classic, the Bosch Classic.
They probably did like the GF5s, right? Or like the Winter Series.
They had some rounds like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's closed now, but it got to be trashed at the end, but it was pretty good for a little while. And he would come over and he did a couple races there. And I remember it was like I was seeing Jesus, dude. Yeah. I just couldn't, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Since I was a kid, I don't remember ever feeling that again about seeing anybody or meeting anybody.
Well, back then too, you didn't have like such easy access to right now. Like,
yeah,
you
that's
didn't have
true.
Like the social media or like the Twitter accounts and all that stuff. So these guys are just legends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're right. You could only see them in a newspaper, Cycle News, or like on Moto World, which was a dumb little 30-minute show. Mm-hmm. So you had no access to them. Yeah, you're right. Now people follow Justin Bieber on Twitter or on Instagram, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's the Biebs. I know all about him.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like you were seeing a ghost, man. You were seeing just, it was a crazy feeling, like seeing him and just being like, oh, that's Rick Johnson.
Like larger than life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool feeling that was.
Yeah. He was the guy I looked up to for sure. He was probably my favorite rider back then.
I was a Wardy guy because you were either one or the other. It was like,
Yeah. That was the rivalry back then, right?
Yeah. But still, even though I was a Wardy guy, you see somebody like him, you're just like, oh my gosh.
And you watch like videos of those guys even to this day, and they were hauling ass. You know what I mean? Like, handlebars like down like this, like suspension all clapped out, and they're just charging.
All soft.
Yeah. They're just swapping out like wide open around corners, flat tracking it. Those guys
they were gnarly.
Awesome, man. Yeah, they were gnarly.
Okay, so when did you start kind of getting? Because I remember you being a Suzuki kid forever. I guess since you bought Metz's bike.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Metz and I were like rivals.
Were you guys teammates back then?
Both Suzuki support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it was like amateur Suzuki guys, and they sponsored a few guys. And at the amateur nationals, everybody would pit together if you're under the Suzuki tent and all that stuff.
Yeah. Ezra Lusk and Jeff Dement were kind of the top dogs on the East and West. Well, Jeff was Texas, but they were the two main dudes. And then
I remember like them back then too.
And they had a rivalry.
They were a little older. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
They were just faster than me. I think Ezra and I are the same age, but he was just faster. And then Metz and I were kind of the two West Coast Suzuki support guys that were, below them. So anyway, we would all pit together, and good people.
Yeah. No, they were a big influence on me too growing up.
So did you get Suzuki support then, like kind of right away, or were you just riding Suzukis?
Just riding Suzukis.
Okay.
I think the first support we got was, what was it? the place in Norco, this Suzuki dealership. Do you remember? It's called like something country.
Canyon Country?
Suzuki
Not Canyon
Country
Country.
or something.
Oh, Suzuki Country? Okay.
Something like that in Norco. My memory, man, I've hit my head too many times, so like I can't remember a lot of this stuff. But
well, we're getting old, dude. That's just what's happening.
Yeah. A little dementia setting in, maybe.
Suzuki. Man, I feel like I know what you're talking about.
Something Country. That was like the name of it. Either way, like that dealership. Yeah, so they kind of started giving us discounts, like started racing all the local stuff. Paris, like had all the GFI Winter Series, the CMC stuff. Started getting, discounts on gear, parts, and it kind of just slowly progressed into, going to these amateur nationals and doing well enough. And then eventually, I think, like in 93, when I was like 13, Suzuki sponsored us and gave us like 2 or 3 bikes or something like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And so you would have been, 12 to 13. I'm looking at your Loretta's results. You were 5th your first year there in 93 in the 85 stock, 12 to 13.
Yeah, I think that was the first year we
good.
were sponsored by Suzuki. Yeah. I think there was a lot of mud that year. I was not the best mud rider coming from California out here, No.
Yeah. Shocker. Me neither.
Yeah.
Were you doing out here, though? Were you winning most everything, or who were you racing with? Kind of who was your competition at the time?
Yeah.
Still that same group?
Kind of the same group.
Dustin and
same group of guys.
Tarantino.
I remember like Doug Parsons, he was pretty fast back then too. I'm just throwing out names I can remember, but there was quite a few dudes that were pretty fast.
Yeah. I think I looked up some, I looked up some of the guys that you were racing against, and I was like, oh, right here. So in 93, right here I have it. I just look at my own stupid notes.
You go deep on research there, huh?
Loretta's in 93, you were 5th, but RC won. Shea Bentley was 2nd. Robbie Horton was 3rd. Nick Way was 4th. You were 5th. That's a pretty good crowd to be in.
Yeah.
And check it out. Clint Boyer was 27th.
Yeah.
The Boyers were racing. This was before Clint got into NASCAR.
I remember like hanging out with those guys, or at least talking to Clint in their motorhome, like being at Lake Whitney,
Yeah.
And just talking about tornadoes in Kansas or something, when you're like 12, like in between motos, you're talking about like, I don't know, Dairy Queen and tornadoes and stuff. It's funny the conversations you have, but yeah.
That's awesome.
He did pretty well for himself.
I think he did okay.
Yeah, he did okay.
Yeah, him and Jimmy Johnson seemed to leave motocross. Same with Ricky Fowler. Those guys all made the smart decision to leave.
Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, I don't know him by any means, right? But we used to go to the desert, like back in those days we're talking about, back in the early days, like before I was sponsored by Suzuki, like we were just getting into it, and we'd go like Thanksgiving, like Halloween, a couple of the big weekends.
Yeah.
And we were there with like a lot of those El Cajon people. And I remember Jimmy Johnson giving me a ride in like a freaking off-road buggy or something,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This was
like a Superstition. You ever heard of that place?
Uh-huh.
Out by like Brawley in that area.
Yeah.
And so I just remember hopping in the buggy or like the sand rail with Jimmy Johnson, and he was just getting into like, I think he was doing the, what was it, like the Mickey Thompson off-road series.
Okay, yeah.
And so he was like, oh, let me show you. And just like, I remember just like holding on for dear life, like thinking I was going to die. Like he was just ripping around the desert in that thing. Like,
but that was before I might have
pissed myself a little bit, but yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, he wasn't famous back then, but it's just kind of funny, right?
It's a cool story.
Yeah. So
you got to ride with Jimmy Johnson before he.
Yeah. I'm sure he would never remember who I was, but yeah. Just
I'm sure he remembers.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Huge fan.
He goes on podcasts and tells that story.
Okay, now I feel like an asshole for bringing that story up. Thanks, Bing.
Shoot. Sorry. I'm a little punch drunk today.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. So, what about out west? So how were you finishing out here? 93, 94. Were you like, you were doing good, right?
I was doing good. Yeah. I remember winning like some of those. Keep talking about those like GFI, whatever they were called, or the Golden States.
Well, there was GFI Winter Series.
And the Golden States.
Golden State, Transcal.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And then GFI split into North-South, remember? And then there was the showdown, North-South showdowns.
Yeah. So I must have been doing pretty well because that's kind of how I think I got the Suzuki rides, Because back then, like you'd have like full-on pros come out and race those races, because they make a little extra money and it was good practice, good training.
Yeah.
And
everybody from the Southwest.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Arizona at the time, and we were coming over every week, every time they had one.
Yeah, I remember watching you because you were a little older in the pro class, So
I was in the pro class?
Yeah,
I guess 93 I would have been pro.
Yeah, you might have just turned pro or something, but Yeah, so I think we were doing pretty good in those. Ended up winning a couple of those series, and then doing pretty good at like top 3 or maybe one, like what was the one in Vegas?
World Mini?
World Minis, you know.
God, that was a
And then
terrible
going to
event.
Lake Whitney, would do good at Lake Whitney, and so that's kind of like where it kind of started as far as getting support and kind of, you know, like getting into it full time and like free stuff and bikes and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Suzuki's, you know, like I talk about this a lot, was contingency money, man. You could
Yeah.
crush it.
Yeah.
I don't know when it stopped, because once I turned pro, I feel like maybe it started kind of petering off, mid-90s.
No, I think
It stayed strong?
I think so, because I mean, I was making Suzuki bucks, you know, and I was like riding the big bikes, you know, as an amateur.
Okay.
And then I don't want to like throw anybody under the bus, but found like a dealership where they would convert that into cash for you. You know what I mean? So they would take a cut or a little more, like a percentage.
And just pay you out?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like when you're, you know, getting free parts and bikes and stuff like that, you don't really need to spend Suzuki bucks at a dealership. But yeah, just get paid out. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suzuki did a good job back then through their dealers, because we had one, it was called Apache Suzuki in Phoenix, and it was a lot of the same stuff. Like they hooked us up.
Yeah, 100%.
So that was
Yeah,
cool.
that was cool.
So when did you made the jump? Let's see. Let's look at your Loretta's results here. You didn't go in 94.
Might have been hurt, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
95, you went 6th and a 4th in 125 stock and mod, 12 to 15. 96, you were 16th and 11th, 125B mod and stock. And then you picked it up. So it was kind of like once you made the jump to pro, that was when you started doing better. You got a third in 97 and a second and third in 98 as a pro-am.
Yeah.
So what was going on those couple of years? Seems like, were you struggling to get on the big bikes, or like just not good results back there?
The first year was 95. I ended up on 125s, you know.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember
But you did good there, 6th and 4th actually.
Yeah. I think it was just stringing together 3 motos, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the individual moto results were. But I remember always being in contention and then maybe just having one bad moto or something. But
that happens at Loretta's,
yeah,
dude. It's hard.
It does. And then you throw in the mud like we were talking about, because it rains every year no matter what. But yeah, that 98 season, I remember coming down to, it was kind of ironic. It was me and Shea Bentley coming down for the championship, you know.
Did he scream, "I want it," when he beat you?
I don't remember.
I
think I was picking my bike up out of the mud. It came down to like, I think it was that 250 class, you know. Like it was me and him, because everyone was kind of out of it. And like, yeah, I guess looking back at some of the names, you know, because I don't think about my racing career very often anymore. And it's like, there were some pretty big names, you know, that we were racing against back at the time.
Yeah, dude.
And,
I mean, pretty much the biggest.
So,
RC, you know?
Yeah, racing him, my whole amateur career sucked, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we're like 2 weeks apart in age. So there was no choice but to every amateur race him. And
I think everybody has that, though.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started, it was Wyndham, and then Ricky came through, you know, like there's just always these guys that are amazing.
Yeah.
You have a picture of you beat him in a moto at Mammoth.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
one time, and I think he might have crashed or like got a bad start and caught me, almost passed me the last lap, and then just annihilated everybody the second moto. So
yeah.
He was gnarly back then.
You got to be good friends with Casey Johnson, because the three of us hung out a lot in the 90s. How did you guys meet? And then you were telling me a story the other day that your first pro race was with him.
Yeah.
And I want to hear that story.
Okay. Just met him, you know, like all the local tracks.
Okay.
Those guys are obviously pro, and I think I was maybe an intermediate or something back then. I think I was like,
because he's, if I remember right, he's like maybe a year or two younger than me, but a year or two older than you.
He's a couple, maybe like 4 or 5 years older than me, I think it was.
Okay.
Because I remember he was like 21. I think I might have been 17 or something like that, you know.
Okay.
Because we're trying to like sneak into clubs and stuff, but fake IDs. But no, just met him out at the local tracks, and I think he was like really good buddies with Brandis back then.
Okay.
And so those guys would ride together all the time. And my dad had the water truck, and we'd Newport. Do you ever remember riding out there?
Yeah. Your dad would.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be like middle of summer. You know what I mean? It's all powder out there, and he was dumping a bunch of water out there in the little corner tracks and rut tracks.
Yeah.
And those guys would come out there and ride, and we just, you know how they are. They're just outgoing and stuff like that. Started talking to them, and kind of just slowly got hooked up with riding with those guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Looking back, I don't know if that was like the best thing for my career, you know, like as far as influence, but you know, we had a good time. So yeah.
Fun might not have been the best. So tell me about your first pro race.
Yeah, it was up at Reno.
Oh, the Reno Cross?
The Reno Arena Cross or whatever it was, or I don't forget what they called it back then.
Yeah.
I think Jim Hawley was like the promoter. Yeah. Remember that? Like they did all those series. And so Casey had that big blue lifted single cab Chevy. Yeah. Remember that thing? Sitting on 35s, like the big brodozer. Mm-hmm. And it was me and his mechanic, Dave Feeney at the time. I think Dave was his mechanic.
God rest his soul. You know, he passed.
Oh, man, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. But, yeah, anyways, we had a center console in the truck. It wasn't even like a bench seat.
It wasn't a bench?
It wasn't a bench seat,
okay.
Yeah. So it's like a 9-hour drive or something like that. So we had 3 bikes. I just had a 125 at the time, you know, and he had his 125 and 250 because it was both classes. All our gear, just everything piled in the back of that thing. I think it was a short bed. And I'm sitting on the center console for 9 hours, you know.
Probably your head up against.
Yeah, just like if I have a messed up neck now. I mean, it's jacked when I got up there. But, yeah, so we get there, obviously long-ass trip. And we talked about it the other day, but the boxing gloves. And, like, I had forgotten about it until you mentioned it. You know what I mean? Yeah. For some reason, we thought we were going to be pro boxers on the side, too, and we're just always want to beat the shit out of each other. But we get up there to the hotel room, and we're, like, on the first floor, you know.
Well, to give some context to this, so I didn't know it went back this far. I just remember sometime in the maybe 99, 2000, 2001, I don't know, maybe it was in that window.
Yeah, this was 96, so.
Yeah, so just out of that, Casey liked to box. He thought it was good training. And so he had these gloves. And I remember we'd go to his house because everybody lived at Casey's at one point or other. It was like the halfway house.
Oh, that was 100%.
And he's like, let's box. Oh, it's good training. And I'm like, you know, Casey had a fuse.
100%.
Very, very short. Very, very short fuse. And like he was volatile, right? So like I didn't want to ever piss him off or. Yeah. But he, you know, like you can imagine, we would start, you know, it starts playful and you're dancing around and whatever. And then somebody jabs and you're like, oh, really? And then you hit a little harder. And then pretty soon it's a full-on brawl.
You're like the guy on Fight Club that's on the floor getting his face beat.
Yes, yes.
And I slowly progresses into that, yeah.
I remember at one time, I'm like, gosh, this doesn't seem like a good idea, but all right. And I got hit in the jaw so hard, I think it was Casey. I almost went to a doctor, dude. I was like, gosh, my jaw, I couldn't bite on things. Like I screwed it up for months.
Hairline fracture your jaw. Like who knows?
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was the last time I did that. But so carry on now with your story. So
yeah. So it sounds like this was a couple years before that. So the boxing's been going on for a while. But yeah, we get up there and I don't know who like initiated it, but we decided let's get our boxing gloves out. You know, like the night before the race, and we're like, you know, up here and like. Trying to like get the range and feel each other out, and mind you, we have no idea what the hell we're doing. You know what I mean? We're just throwing haymakers and bombs. And I just remember going in for a right hook, and he must have done the same thing at the same time, and we just connected, double KO. Like both ended up on our ass on the concrete, and I just remember seeing stars, and I don't think we were fully knocked out, but I was rung our bells pretty good, you know. And I think we were done after that.
It was like the closing scene from that Rocky movie.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but.
Yeah, there was a lot of ideas with Casey that were not great.
Questionable.
Yeah. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Think about all the times we should have got arrested.
How did that first race go?
Not good.
Not so great.
Yeah, you know what? I won the freestyle contest.
Yeah. They did the freestyle?
So I think I made my money, you know, I made like $300 or something. Like, so they had like an intermission show. I just remember like, I think Rusty Holland or somebody took me out in a heat race or like, you know, welcome to the pros. Like he was trying to qualify first heat race, whatever it was. I just get smashed, taken out. And then LCQ get a bad start. So I didn't make the main, you know?
Okay.
And it was Tool Time was up there. Tim, he was up there from Suzuki, you know?
Okay.
And he was my hype man. I remember like he was on the back of my 125, you know? And I'm like, driving him around or riding him around the stadium, and he's like trying to pump the crowd up like this, and I remember like burning my clutch out, you know, because like going through the whoops like I'm like so much playing the clutch, and I don't think it had one of the automaticable adjustable things or the automatic adjustable clutch deals. Yeah. And I remember having to like hit this triple and try to do tricks, you know.
What were you doing?
A no-footed can-can, like a no-footed can-can, or like a can-can one-hander, heel clicker. I don't know, just all the basic tricks.
Yeah.
But that was good enough back in '96 to win it.
To go in the 300.
That was my freestyle career right there. Yeah.
All right. So 98, like I said, you had good results at Loretta, second and third. And you rode one Supercross and one National Motocross in 97.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. How did you, you were pro-am, I guess they call it, right?
Yeah. Still riding for Suzuki, like just, I guess, amateur factory Suzuki supported or whatever.
Yep.
So I turned pro in 96, so we're still doing like the Lorettas was like the main deal, right? Like still racing all the pro amateur stuff, but yeah, I think it was, what was it?
You did Dallas?
In 97?
In 97, and then you did Glen Helen.
Okay, yeah.
12th at Dallas, I mean, like,
Not terrible.
Not too bad, first one.
I think it was, 17. It's crazy how young we start, huh?
It's
Back
totally
then,
crazy, yeah. What do you remember from that, like your first one?
Just remember, like, being out of my element, because you have all these dudes around you that are so much faster. And it's like when you're in the amateur scene, I guess, or you're winning a lot, it kind of messes with your head a little bit, right? Like you're used to being a contender, running up front, maybe winning or getting second places or whatever. And then you get to something like that and you got guys blowing by you. You're kind of struggling to just adapt to learn the obstacles, learn the whoops, all the technique and all that stuff. So it's a big learning curve, For some guys, I guess. For me, it was it took me a while to figure out how to ride Supercross.
It's hard not to get discouraged.
100%.
I talk about this all the time. Is anyone that gets to the pro level, especially on a team or with some support, you're the fastest guy in your area, at least in your little world, right?
Yep.
You're winning.
That's what it is.
Maybe you're going to amateur nationals and winning or being on the podium, and then you turn pro, you may never win again.
Yeah.
And so
it's hard mentally. It kind of jacks with your mind a little bit,
Yeah.
So
discipline your disappointment and go, okay, this is okay. I'm just work on myself, make progress, but it's just kind of beats you down.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be out there getting 12th.
No. And you start, for a lot of people, I think they just stop believing.
When you're used to winning.
Yeah.
So, and that's where, obviously the mental aspect of this sport is just probably the most important, right?
Totally.
So I just respect the guys that are even a guy like Cooper Webb, you look at his mental toughness, you know what I mean? And it's
it's crazy.
That can get you really, really far. And that's the most important thing.
So did you have, for 97, were you still Suzuki support?
Yeah, Suzuki support.
And what about 98? Did you sign with Primal?
Primal in 98,
okay.
Yeah. Was that the first? No, they were on Hondas before, right? Yeah.
You were on Hondas with,
Rayner.
I think, Kim Ashkenazi. You remember that name?
No.
Australian guy.
Was he a rider?
Yeah.
But
he was an Australian kid. I think he came over and rode for him. Renard obviously was their main guy, and then they had somebody else. He was a West Coast guy out here. I'm brain farting. Anyway.
Yeah, they're on Hondas, I think, back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you rode for
Suzuki was 98. Primal was their first year, and so I guess would you call it a supported factory
factory support,
satellite, or some sort of satellite team, whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was when they were trying to get rid of their factory 125 stuff, push it off to somebody, and they were testing the waters there. And Robbie was your teammate that year, right?
He was, yeah.
And he was fast.
He was fast that year. He was fast.
I think he beat Ricky straight up. I want to say it.
Broom, maybe.
Unadilla.
Oh yeah, it was Unadilla.
I think Unadilla 98 was when he was just on another level. Renard was wild.
When he was on, he was on.
And he was one of the guys I grew up having to race.
Yeah.
When I talk about these
sucks
phenoms,
for you,
sucks for me.
Yeah.
His style, that guy, if he could have just stayed healthy.
Yeah, his style was insane. Yeah.
You keep that guy healthy and give him arm pump surgery.
Yeah.
He goes on a run I don't know. He was incredible.
He had an amazing talent. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so talk about this season. First time with a team, was that how was that?
Yeah, it was good. We did a lot of testing,
Those bikes were good.
They were, yeah. And they got even better the next year, when we were teammates. We'll talk about that. But, those bikes were good. We had Robbie's dad. I think he was building our motors that year. Suspension was good. Everything was good. It was just kind of that was, I guess, my first full-time Supercross season. So just trying to figure out, racing Supercross and starts and kind of just the intensity, you know what I mean? You got to have that early lap, that sprint speed, heat race, got to be aggressive. So I don't even know what my results were back then. I remember making mains and stuff like that. And
yeah, you ended up with an 8th in Phoenix and a 6th in Irving in Texas, So a couple top 10s, made the mains.
Yeah.
Outdoors, a little rougher.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember racing like even a full outdoor season, to tell you the truth. I
Really?
was not
Yeah.
an outdoor guy. I don't know. It was not my jam, really.
Yeah, it looks like you missed a couple here.
I think that, okay, are we talking about 98?
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Nothing in
Because I was
June.
still doing like amateur stuff too.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
Yeah. So, I don't even
that's
know if
right.
I was full time like Supercross. It was like my first year with that team, and I think the main thing was Loretta's. They wanted me to go race and win Loretta's. So, but I do remember going. No, this was 98. Went to Millville and rode a 250, and did pretty good on the 250. I remember that. I think I got like 10th overall, but
Oh, yeah, 250. Yeah, 10th.
yeah,
Damn,
like,
dude.
crashed the first moto because I was running like well inside the top 10 in the first moto. And I never like raced a 250 in a pro race before, but I just remember, when you feel it, you get to a track that you mesh with, and like there was really no pressure. It was like me and Billy Whitley, I think, was there with me.
Yeah.
And just was feeling it that day, and I think crashed whatever the first moto, and the second moto ended up like 7th or 8th or something for like 10th overall. So those guys were pretty pumped. That was a good day. So
Dude, 10th overall at a 250 National is great.
yeah.
I didn't even catch that you were on a 250 here. I should have looked closer.
Yeah.
That's rad. All right, so end of that season, and I can't remember, were we riding together at this time in '98? Because I would have been FMF Honda, but I was out all year with the knee.
You know what? Like I remember you picking me up when I was like 15, and I don't know if my dad like worked out a deal with you or something like that, and like you would take me riding with you when we'd go ride out in the hills or ride at tracks.
So what year would that have been?
That was back in like 95, maybe 96. I don't remember having a driver's license. I remember a couple of times like you in the white Chevy picking me up, the Porsche. Remember that? Yeah, the Porsche. It was like you take your shoes off and you get in this thing. Like I don't care if they're flip flops, throw them in the back. Like you had your foxtail out, man.
I was pretty uptight about that truck.
Yeah, that truck had the Porsche nickname for a reason.
Yeah.
But I used to pick me up in that thing. So yeah, we would ride together here and there, and I remember like. Yeah, and that was like a cool thing, for me to look up guys I looked up to. I looked up to you back then, you're already racing pro, and like being able to go out and practice and ride with you guys, and like all that stuff, like I guess it like is a bigger influence on you than you think it might be. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Back then, you doing that, like it was just, I'm gonna go pick this kid up, but that's like a big deal, So.
Mm. It's funny because I did the same thing with Bruce Murata. His sister and Amber were best friends in high school. So when Amber and I started dating. Somehow we connected, and he was a pretty young kid, and I was taking him out, letting him ride my factory bikes at times.
Whatever.
And it stuck with him, and I'm like, gosh, I barely remember that, but cool,
Yeah, because you're in the zone. You're just trying to do your everyday routine and stuff. But
trying to survive.
100%.
That year, so I remember '98 that was the El Nino year. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget it because it was maybe the best year ever for riding in the hills.
Oh, yeah.
All the stuff down by Red Hawk. And you remember there was that track right where the 15 and 215 split? Yep. It was right off the side of the freeway.
Yeah,
and it was
I do remember that track.
Epic.
Yeah. You'd have like factory teams out there testing, because it was like the dirt was so good. It was raining like before the outdoor season there.
Yeah.
It was raining before the outdoors. I remember that year.
Yeah.
The El Nino. And I remember like seeing factory Suzuki guys out there testing and stuff, So.
Yeah. And then actually 98, while we're talking about it, you got 16th at Glen Helen, but I have a picture. I swear, you had a good moto there because I got 3rd, and you were in a picture battling with me.
Yeah, I think I ended up getting a really good start the first moto and was up there for a while and like running in the top 5, maybe top 10 for a lot of the moto, and then just faded back towards the end a little bit.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah. So,
there's a picture of you and me and Dowdy and dang it, who else was up there? I want to say Wyndham probably won, walked away, but.
I think
Ricky. I guess Ricky would have done
Ricky
it.
Was already, because I think he won the championship that year.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Anyway, whoever it was.
Yeah.
And you were in the mix. We were battling, and I went like 3-5 for 5th overall that day or something.
Oh, did you? That was good. Yeah.
On that slow ass Honda.
Yeah. The lawnmower.
The lawnmower.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing you in that picture and going, oh yeah, JD was ripping.
Yeah, I had a couple good outdoor races, but that's the extent of it. I'm not gonna. Yeah.
Well,
most of it's pretty forgettable. Let's just say that.
You're preaching to the choir. I wasn't an outdoor guy. The conditions had to be good, and that was the thing that day at Glen Helen. Remember, it was El Nino, so it had rained a bunch. The dirt was like, it was the best Glen Helen had ever been.
It was amazing, like super deep ruts and like never dried up. You know how Glen Helen, like later in the day, it's just going to be hard packed and they water the shit out of it. And then it's just a skating ring. But
this is something that's different now. And when I kind of asked about the difference between then and now with tracks, remember in this day, in the 90s, even into the early 2000s, they didn't prep them the way they do now.
No.
Right? Every track had its own character.
Mm-hmm.
Hangtown was hard pack trash.
Yep.
And before the 125 motos, they would flood it. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And so, like, you and I being not good mud riders, which is our fault. We should have ridden in the mud more or whatever. But, like, that was a weakness we had. And so the first 2 or 3 laps until the track worked in, I was
just trying not to crash.
Trying not to crash. That was a disaster. Yeah. And so then everyone would take off, and then I'm working from 20th trying to go forward once the track came in. I think you probably had the same issues.
Everybody dealt with the same conditions, obviously, but some dudes were just way more comfortable than that, so.
Yeah, and like I had a podium at Steel City one year, and it was like overcast. It had rained the night before. The track was just perfect.
Yeah.
It's like if there wasn't dust or mud, I did well. Yeah. Troy. I did well at Troy when it was good.
Or starts, right? It's all about like.
Yeah, but if it was muddy, dusty, it's just, I feel like the tracks had more character back then.
Yeah.
Where now they bring in the material, they rip it this deep, they put this much, they're all kind of the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like now, you look at, what was it, Colorado this year? That track looked gnarly, right?
That was gnarly. Well, it got rain, a ton of rain the day before, Can't help that, but I don't know if it's better for fans for sure. You're not getting dusted.
Yeah.
But like if you can't ride mud and ruts,
you're done.
You and I would just have to retire.
Yeah,
like
much.
Now.
Well, I twisted my knee and pulled. Sure.
I'm done.
I'm gonna save it for the second moto. Yeah.
Okay, so we go into '99. I signed with Primal. We're teammates, but you were riding East.
Yeah, that year I rode East, and I remember '99. Those bikes were insane, by the way.
They were so good.
They were so good.
I'm still trying to find a '99 or 2000 RM125 to rebuild and restore, but they're hard to find, dude.
Yeah.
Or if someone has one, they want a lot of money for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming they don't sell parts at the dealers for those anymore, but
probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bike was a rocket, man. And it handled well, it turned well, it was fast, like it just did everything right.
I remember having like the different transmissions in there, right? The trannies, like it was a longer first and second gear. You remember on the starts, I mean, that thing would just rip hole shots,
Yeah.
I remember coming into that season. So
who was our teammates? Was Horton? No, he came in 2000. So who was it?
It was for Supercross.
Brandis?
I think it was Brandis and maybe Jessman.
Okay.
You, Brandis, Jessman. I think that's.
So me and Brandis rode west, and you and Jessman on the east.
Shoot!
Gosh, dang it!
Yeah, I don't remember. So horrible with memory, but
we're a couple of dummies.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about going into the season, how it went.
Yeah,
because I got hurt my back right before the opener.
Yeah.
And I was feeling so good, and then I couldn't ride. I think I sat a couple rounds out because I couldn't. My low back was pinched.
Yeah, I just remember training really hard and kind of feeling prepared going into that season, and got a little bit of confidence from the previous year, just learning Supercross and kind of like doing good at the test track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always feel like I was a way better practicer than I was a racer. I don't know if you ever felt that way, but
no, I was better racing. I needed the adrenaline.
Yeah. But going into that season, things were going pretty well, and then I ended up, I think it was at Comp Edge out in Hemet. Remember that track out there?
Mm-hmm.
Remember like
Comp Park.
Comp Park.
Yeah.
Or Comp Park. That's right. Comp Edge was up in Hesperia or somewhere up there.
Yeah.
But going over the bars, and it was like a month before the season, and I like did a hairline fracture on my shoulder.
Oh.
So I missed I think it was like 3 weeks or close to a month off the bike, and then the first round, I think I might have had like just that week riding. Going into that first race.
Okay.
Was it Tampa or something like
Tampa,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember getting a really good start. I think I was up there whatever. I don't know if I hole shot it or was up there in the top 2 or 3 in the start, and then just fading. I got so tired, I was so out of shape just from missing all that time on the bike and just trying to make that first round. So
it's so hard. Like you said, mentally you're screwed up, and then physically. Yeah. You can jog all you want or whatever. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
So you went 11, 12, 14 at the first few.
It was Robbie. It was Robbie Skaggs, I think, was my teammate that year. I don't know if he was like a fill-in.
Oh, really?
I don't know if somebody got hurt, but I remember him at Tampa racing with me.
Okay.
And I just remember the Suzuki guys not being very stoked after the race,
Well,
because it doesn't look good when you get a good start and fade way back, you know what I mean? So, yeah. But I think I got arm pump, or there was nothing I could really do, you know what I mean? So
Oh, it's a terrible feeling, huh?
Yeah.
I had races that way where I felt like it wasn't going right, and then you just start trying harder, and then you're going back even worse.
Yeah.
And then in your head, you're going, oh, my gosh, what's wrong? What's going on?
It just compounds. That's all it is. Yeah.
Terrible.
Longest 15 minutes of your life.
So then you podiumed at St. Louis. So tell me about St. Louis 99. And was that the night Brandis won? No, that was 2000.
I think Ernesto probably won.
Oh, Ernesto won. Okay.
Yeah. I just remember him on that four-stroke. That was like.
That was when Kelly Smith was leading, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Ernie blasted him right at the end.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up getting a podium.
Okay.
I got pretty lucky. So, because I think I was like riding around in like fourth or fifth, and then who was it? Ernie and Kelly Smith.
Kelly Smith led the whole freaking race, and on the last
Way ended up winning that race. I'm pretty sure.
I'd have to go back and watch. I just know that was like Kelly's one chance to win, and he got hammered pretty good.
Yeah, and so I kind of lucked into that one. So it was like last up, all of a sudden, I'm like, shit, I'm third, and like, I'll take it, I guess. Like it was first podium, whatever.
Pretty sweet. Yeah. Podiums are pretty rad.
Yeah, I remember getting the little trophy, and like had it up at the house because I was still living with my parents at the time, and the freaking cat jumped up there and knocked it off and just shattered it because it was like made out of glass or something. Yeah, I was gonna kill that cat. So and then had I don't know maybe a couple top fives that year, and like it was kind of in the mix a few races. You know what I mean? I just remember getting good starts on that bike. It was so freaking fast. Yeah,
it was so great.
Good.
And then outdoors, you started on the 125. You did Glen Helen and Hangtown, and then there's a big gap. Did you get hurt at Hangtown, or sometime after Hangtown?
I don't remember.
Because June, at the end of May, June, and July, you were off.
I think I ended up getting hurt because I remember spending like summers out in Canyon Lake.
Yeah. So listen, at Hangtown, I crashed because they watered. I lost the front end.
Imagine that.
Separated my shoulder really bad, and so I was off.
Yeah.
And that was the summer. At least I remember we partied pretty hard
that summer. Yeah.
And I wasn't really a party guy, but I was kind of like, I had spent my whole career just trying to be straight arrow and like I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna do this, and it was like I was getting frustrated. So then I was like, you know what?
Boats and hoes, yeah.
Boats and hoes. Let's just have some fun. And you know what? It's a good thing I did because I met my wife that summer. Yeah. Going into Chili's because we would go to. Remember we go to Bonsai? Remember that place?
Bonsai, dude. Yeah.
Brandis and Casey and you and I and I don't know who else would hang with us, but remember Rich Berry?
Yeah.
There's another fireman.
Yep.
We'd party at his house quite a bit. I remember that. Yeah. But we'd go to Bonsai and you guys would do sake bombs.
No, it was like the one. It was like the owner's daughter, and she would always bring us like sake over there. Remember? Like I don't even think we paid for it. It was every time. Like her goal was just to get everybody as drunk as possible every time we'd go in there.
Success.
Yeah,
she did a good job.
She was really good at her job. That's for sure.
What else do you remember from that
summer?
There
might have been some vandalism in that place.
Potentially.
Like they didn't care. Yeah. But we just kept bringing new people back, so they didn't care.
Yeah.
What's a $50 door?
What else do you remember from that summer?
Oh, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I remember we went to TGI Fridays, Chili's. Like we were always looking for, hey, where are we going to go get drinks tonight?
Yeah.
I kept wanting to go to Chili's because I met Amber.
Yeah, there was that's all there was back then.
In Temecula wasn't really cranking back then.
Yeah, but TGI Fridays, that was the jam,
Yeah.
Or Aloha Jays, I remember a couple of those places. But Jays. I don't know. Most of it was a blur, Yeah. When
did we do the party at Swap's house?
I don't know if I was there for that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ivan hung out with us a lot.
Was that 99? I think it was more like 2000, I think.
Maybe he came in a little later.
Yeah.
But we went to I remember we did a lot of clubbing, dude. We were at the Boogie in Anaheim, remember?
The Boogie and what else? The
Cahoots, which is in Riverside.
Yeah.
The Rocks Club.
Yeah.
Which was ghetto.
Yeah.
I remember almost getting in a fight there. I'm like, okay, we're never coming back here.
Club Metro.
Club Metro.
Yeah, the motocross night, they pull you up on stage and ask you what team you rode for. That's a great look. Like
Primal Impulse Suzuki.
Shout out to the sponsors.
Yeah. What about, do you remember we were at Cahoots one night and Taco Tuesday, they give you a little coupon, you get free tacos. Do you remember that?
Yeah. All the swag.
And I'm driving the Porsche. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal. I took the Porsche out.
Oh man. I think I know where this is going.
You, Johnson, and he brought home some hood rats. and you guys are in the back. He is. I can't remember who's sitting where, but I remember hearing him. I just start smelling something gross.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Casey.
You were so pissed.
Yeah. So mad.
Yeah.
He just puked in his hand and like dumped it on the floor.
Just trying like a little baby bird in the hand, just thinking that's going to do anything, like chuck it out the window or something. Yeah.
So like, what were we drinking back then? Probably Goldschlager and Jägermeister.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Mixed with some tacos.
They didn't have Red Bull vodka back then, right?
No.
Yeah.
Mixed with
that came in later.
Some dicey tacos, and he threw that up on my floor in my Porsche.
Some Authentico tacos, yeah.
Pissed.
Yeah, with the guacamole. And,
oh, man.
Ugh.
What about this, dude? What about snowboarding? Because we had some fun, and Ivan was with us on that. You remember when we went to Bear Mountain? It was springtime, and we went snowboarding, and we were just dirtboarding across the dry patches?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Again, this is not kids. We don't recommend this, but we were getting every 2 runs we'd go in and do a shot, and then we'd go out and we'd find a bare patch of dirt.
You got to stay warm, you know.
You did have to stay warm. You don't want to get a chill.
Yeah, exactly.
Mama always said.
Yeah.
So we would just lean back and see who could get across the dirt the farthest.
I do remember that, just jacking up those boards. Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah.
And then I don't know when it was, maybe later, but we did a trip to Mammoth.
Yeah.
And we did a trip
I think it was for my 21st birthday. That's when we went up there to Mammoth. It was like 9 of us, right? Didn't we have? Like, were you on that trip with like?
I don't remember the details. Yeah, I think
Ivan
so.
Was there? I think Preston was there.
But didn't we go to Mountain High when it was like a blizzard? Me and you and Eddie.
Yeah.
In his 4Runner.
We did.
We had to do like back roads to get there.
I think we might have got stuck there, like snowed in or something.
Yeah, we had fun times, man. Yeah. Those were really good times.
But yeah, I remember. Yeah, that trip to Mammoth, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Because I remember using like a fake ID on my birthday because like I forgot who it was younger than me, so I gave them my real ID, and I'm using my fake ID on my birthday to get out, you know, to some of the bars and stuff. But like we ended up on the slopes. We bought like little sleds and saucers, you know, and I just remember going up there all sauced up and like hiking up like a quarter mile, you know, in the middle of the night and just bombing it down in the dark, you know, just like 9 of us racing down the mountain.
Those were good times.
It was fun.
Anyway, I just was trying to remember all the stuff we did, and it's like stuff kept coming back. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And there's a lot more that I don't remember. But
yeah. All right. Well, so back to business. You came back in August and, you know, racked up some top 30s.
Yeah, totally. Crushing it. Yeah.
Maybe the training program was.
Yeah, nothing to brag. Yeah, the training program or. Probably the training program. I don't know.
Moving on. What did you do in 2000? Plano Honda.
Plano. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I remember about this year, and I want to hear how that went. It's funny because Kenny Watson just called me while we were talking here, but was he the manager at the time?
He was. Yeah. He was the. I don't know. The first. That was the first year they had that team. So I think.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the first team manager.
So I remember, because in '99, Yamaha of Troy was crushing it. Those bikes were unreal.
Insane, right?
And Casey Johnson was freaking the man. I thought that year, I'm like, Casey's going to be like the next dude. Yeah. He's got it. He is like.
He definitely was the fastest guy that year.
He was just, man, everything was on. Yeah. And I remember those guys they'd all ride together as a group at the Yamaha of Troy track, which is kind of like, they were way ahead of their time. You know, it's like what all these guys are doing at the clubs now.
Yeah.
They would do their testing or whatever they had to do, and then at the end of the day, they lined up and they all did a 20-lap moto together.
That's the best practice you can get. Yeah.
And so I remember you and I modeled that. The next year, we were right at the poo-poo track a lot.
Yeah, that was me and you were training partners that year.
Yeah.
And it was just us two, right?
I remember,
like, for Supercross, it was like.
Some guys would jump in, but it was you and me.
Yeah.
And we both had our best seasons ever.
Yeah.
I think, you know?
No, it worked. I mean, it definitely helped. It was like a massive improvement because, I mean, shit, I didn't want you to beat me at the practice track, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, you're a guy I was racing, but, you know, and then I remember just our gym routine, how ghetto it was. You remember? You know, like compared to what it is now.
What were we doing?
We were just like using machines, you know, like we had the Stairmaster, whatever. We'd go to Gold's Gym. Like we'd go do our motos and then we'd go to Gold's Gym and like get on the leg curl machine. We just go from like machine to machine, you know, do like 3 sets of 10. Like, oh man,
it just wasn't like it wasn't refined.
Didn't have maybe the guidance or like you know, we were just winging it. You know what I mean? Like this is what we got to do, and just like I don't know if we were doing road bike rides or whatever back then, but
do you know the problem? Here was the problem, dude. yeah, there was no one like Johnny O training Ricky was kind of the start of all of that.
Yeah.
And I guess Semix worked with Jeremy a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know what.
Semix helped me out too when I was an amateur, but it was more like technique and riding stuff versus like training, you know, like off the bike training stuff. Like, I mean, you just think how scientific it is now. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I was just watching Jeremy because he worked out at that Golds.
Yeah.
And he and Phil Lawrence, and I'd watch what they did, and I'm like, they were just doing that basic shit.
yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, like he's the best guy in the sport. So why would I do something different?
Yeah. And obviously looking back and now like all the hit training and circuit training and all that stuff, like obviously is more, I think, applicable or it's going to translate better to the motorcycle, you know, but we were just getting swole, dude.
just
Surprised
working
we
that
didn't buy some of these like the little G-string Gold Gym tank tops, you know, like members only.
Just working on those forgotten muscle groups, you know, buys and tries.
Yep, totally. But no, it did help. I just remember, you know, like us doing motos and we do our 15-lap motos or do our, you know, sprint motos or whatever, and that was like made a big difference. It helped a lot. So,
you know, we're lucky we didn't get some kind of weird disease out at that place, the poo-poo track.
Yeah, right.
This was Plano Honda's test track, and it was out near Beaumont, but right next to a dairy farm. Actually, on the dairy farm.
Yeah, it was. It was like whoever owned that place just did not care. You know, go ahead and build the track out here.
And the track was awesome.
Yeah, and I think like at first it wasn't like a bunch of dudes that went in, like pitched in maybe $2,000 a piece or something like that, and we had that track built.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details, but it was good dirt.
It was,
but we're using like their irrigation sprinklers to water it.
Yeah, the Rainbirds, right?
And we're getting covered in just pea water. You know, that was just reclaimed
100%.
piss water.
I remember one time like we were like watering the track, and I don't know if you were there, and one of the sprinklers got plugged up. And I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, I do remember that.
It
was a bunny.
It was a rabbit. Yeah.
And it just blew his guts out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like skinning it and just blew his guts out. It was like slow motion coming out of the Rainbird, you know.
I remember.
Like just, hey, we did what we had to do. I mean, that track worked for us that year. So
it did. Yeah. It did work. And you, dude, I was looking at your results here in 2000 in Supercross, outdoors, different story a little bit, but you were never out of the top 10. 8th was your worst finish. 6, 5, 5, 6, 4, 8.
Well, I think, I missed a main event in San Diego because I had crashed. Because I don't know if like San Diego's in there. I do remember having a big crash. Heat race, like went down in the first turn. There was like a first turn pileup, and I think somebody's bike like snagged my choke, and I didn't know my choke was on.
Oh.
And so like I get up and I'm like trying to make a comeback, you know, like first lap after crashing, trying to come through the pack. And then go over that. There was a big finish line double. I remember that year. And my bike just just cut out on the finish line double. And I wish I would have found the picture. Like there was like a newspaper article showing me just going over the bars, bike just yard selling.
Did you jump?
I jumped, I just bailed out. But like somebody snapped a photo from the newspaper, and you just see the bike flipping in the air, and I'm just like, just wadded it up. You know, I tried to race the LCQ, try to get the bike back together, because I think I was going like pretty close to third in points that year. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And so, and so missed that main, but like most of the other races were pretty decent that year. I mean, that was the best season I had for sure, you know. So.
And those guys had to be happy, first year team, and they're.
Yeah, no, I think they were pretty stoked, you know. Almost got a couple podiums that year, was battling for some podiums and finishing like around 4th and 5th, a lot of the races, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, that was the year we buckled down and.
We worked hard. I mean, we
worked hard.
We did the best we could do with the info we had. Yeah. It wasn't lack of effort.
No, 100%. Yeah, it was. And I remember not partying that year and none of that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But
we got that out of our system in the summer before.
Summer of 99.
We partied like it was 99, dude. Yeah. We really did.
100%.
Okay, so Nationals that summer, not so great.
No.
I'm not going to lie to you. You must have got hurt. You only did 2, actually. Southwick?
I did. My knee is what happened. I think we were riding, I don't know if it was with you. We were out at like Jeremy's outdoor track out behind his house, you know, like he had that outdoor track by the Loma Linda Hospital over there. And I remember just being dry and dusty. I think I don't know if it was before Glen Helen or I don't know what. Yeah, it must have been before the beginning of the season. And I tore my meniscus. That's what happened. Like stuck my leg out in a corner, felt like a little pop. So I ended up having surgery on that, and then I think try to come back to Southwick, and that was a bad idea, you know. Being out of shape, like
you logged to 38th.
Yeah,
so you made the motos.
DNF, yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
All of them are tough.
Yeah.
Nationals are so hard to come back from when you're not ready.
Yeah.
So hard. Okay, so that season wraps up. You stayed with Plano for 01? Yeah.
Yeah. Stayed with them 01.
And this was not a bad season for you either. In fact, I remember you beating me a lot because I went to KTM and was struggle bussing.
Yeah. Everybody knows that. Infamous front end.
No, that was 02.
Oh, was it 02?
That was
okay.
02. 01 was, it was their first year, really. Yeah. And anyway, not great. This isn't my story, but
that bike for sure.
It was a struggle. Yeah. But I remember, like, I don't remember where I looked through some of these results on you, all your fifths, fourths, fifths, you were in front of me.
Yeah.
So you were still having a pretty good season.
No, that year, I think at Houston, I ended up casing a triple and broke my wrist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that took me out for the rest of the season. I don't know how many rounds were left, but.
Oh, yeah, you were done. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this, dude. Well, hold on a second. Yeah, let's hit this and then we'll take a break. So you get hurt at Houston, and then sometime before it got too hot, you must have been back because that's when you got hurt, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Because your results stop after 01 till 05.
Yeah.
So it had to be in that window.
Yeah, maybe it was. Oh, no, that was, that year. I remember what happened now. Basically, I got let go from the Plano team after the Supercross season. So, because I had a contract for Supercross and outdoors, and then I got hurt, during Supercross. And I don't know all the details. I know they basically let me go, and they ended up hiring, I think it was Scott Sheik for outdoors,
Okay.
Because they knew he was going to do better. I wasn't the greatest outdoor guy. So it was kind of bittersweet, but that's what ended up happening. And then I think I just got a little burned out. And then after that, I gave it a shot at arena cross for a little bit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I think I went into.
What year did you get hurt? What year was that?
Oh, what is it? 01, I think it was.
It was 01.
Yeah, it was 01, yeah.
Okay. So that's what I thought. I thought it was like late spring of 01 because we were riding in the hills, so it still had to be raining.
No, we're talking about that year. It was when I got hurt was 2008. Are you talking about when I broke my neck?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that was 2008.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, that was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm way off. All right, so this 01 to 05 gap was arena
just
cross.
following this timeline. No, it wasn't. It was just the 02. Like 02.
Just 02.
02.
Okay.
So after this 01, like I got let go from Plano, whatever. Then I didn't race outdoors that year, and then I ended up getting an arena cross deal for 02, and I think it was with a Tough Honda team.
Okay.
Oh my God, yeah.
How was that?
I mean,
how was AX?
Oh man,
it's a different world.
It was, yeah. And back then it was 125 and 250, and I just remember that 02 125 Honda CR Honda just being terrible, And you had guys out there. I think, man, it was like Bradshaw, Demuth. I don't know if that was like Brayton's first year racing some arena crosses. There were some really good names,
Yeah. And
then you had all the typical I think maybe, I don't know if Buddy was still doing it, but there were some fast guys, and it was just a struggle on that bike,
Yeah.
I remember my practice bike was a different year than my race bike.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the 250s, I think I had some decent results on the 250 because I could get better starts, But I was thinking I'm going to go into it after having a couple good Supercross seasons. Like I'm going to go in there and contend for wins. And I had some decent races, but it just didn't pan out, ended up kind of getting a little bit burnt out. And then I just ended up quitting for a couple years. And that's when I took like a 3-year break from racing.
What were you doing in that window?
Driving the water truck with my dad.
Oh,
and that's
okay,
when I went to the fire academy.
Okay.
And kind of just started planning for the future, and then I didn't even think I was going to race again, and then ended up just having an opportunity. I think it was back in 04.
So when you went to the fire academy, who was it that like encouraged you to do that, or who was? Because that was before. When did we go to EMT school?
That was 08. We went in the summer of 08. You and I went to EMT school, but to be honest with you, it was like I remember when I quit, like stop racing. It's like you never think it's going to end too, right? And like you just grow up, you turn pro at whatever, 16 years old. You're already making a living doing it. And when you're younger, that's all you know. And like it was kind of a little bit of a reality check, a little bit like, oh shit, what am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, my dad, he was like, you're going to vert or you get out, and
Verk.
and
but you kind of to defend you, it's like I'm torn on this because, you know, there's that theory of burn the boats, right? Like, don't think about a plan B. If you really want to make something work, it's like that has to be everything and the only thing. No options, right?
You do. Yeah, totally.
So I think that's what you have to do.
You have to have that mentality, but it's like.
But then when it does end, it's like, well, shit, what now?
What now? It's not like you went to school or have like a skill set or anything like that, or
right.
like a trade that you've mastered. But,
so who taught you? How did fire service even come into your head?
So I started, driving that water truck. I spent about 3 or 4 months on a job. I think it was up in Barstow with my dad. And so you got to know what you're doing. He had like 2 or 3 trucks. So he kind of showed me the ropes, kind of showed me all the different tasks, I guess, or like all the different stuff you do when it comes to like construction with the water truck. I mean, there's like, it's easy as dust control, or it's like more complex to where you're doing like backfilling.
Yeah.
And you got to get the ratio of the dirt right, you know what I mean? Or like, because they're testing the soil as you go. So
can't be too muddy or too
dry, too muddy, because otherwise potholes and stuff like that. But so I learned that, and then I ended up working on my own, and I was up in Highland. And I remember, after racing, sitting in a truck for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. I mean, you're active, right? Like you're always working out or always cycling or always being active and kind of doing what you want to do. And just that was like a big kind of like a shock to the system, sitting in a truck for 8 hours a day. And so I would drive by a fire station, and there was like right by the job site, there was a fire station, and I'd see those guys out there, and they'd be like training or like they were doing cool shit, On my lunch break one day, I just happened to park the water truck on the curb, and then went and knocked on the door, and I'll never forget to this day. The guy that answered the door was like, I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, my name is Jiri. Had a couple questions, seeing if I could talk to you, like what this job entails. He's like, yeah, man, come on in next time. Don't come at lunch, though. I'm just, how sacred it is, the lunch hour at the fire station. And, but he was cool, and he just brought me in and like sat me in the office, gave me a rundown of what like the job was all about. And to me at the time, it sounded exciting. And it was like, you're doing different shit every day. You're working out. And that was a big part of it. Like you're active, working out. So he lined me out like, hey, if you want to do this, you need to get your fire academy, get your EMT, and just kind of gave me like a little list, and then I just kind of went off that. And then I just decided that's what I want to do. I don't know. I just kind of got into it that way. And then I remember, your father-in-law, like talking to him. I don't know at what point or what years, like we'd go mountain biking with him, and just, I did a ride along with him one time too.
Did you?
In Fontucky, in Fontana. That was pretty interesting. And yeah, that was it, man. I just decided that's what I'm going to do instead of sitting in a truck or go do a 9-to-5 job. I just couldn't couldn't imagine doing like a 9-to-5, after doing like a racing career. Like
it's hard. It's hard to do that. Yeah. I can't remember how the idea came up, because you and I, like I said, we went to EMT, we'll cover it, but we went to EMT school together and kind of started that path together. But I don't remember how it started. I thought it was Don Upton. I thought maybe he was the first guy.
He was, but I don't remember what, like, I just remember when I was doing that water truck deal, and that's how I kind of like thought about it. And then I think Don, I don't remember at what point, but I think he was doing like volunteering.
Okay.
I think he might have been like in Paris or something doing like, paid call fireman or volunteer stuff. And then I just remember he went to medic school and ended up getting hired. And then I don't think his career lasted that long because he blew his knee out or something like that. So, I think he had a gate fall on him or something like that. And his knee was done, and that was it. But you and me, it was 2008 when we went to that EMT class.
Jeez. Okay. We'll hit that then in a little bit. So, and that was the same year. Yeah, because that was right after EMT school where you got hurt. Because I remember we had just gotten out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll get to that.
That was that winter, because we went. I think we did like a 6-week summer course. And then it happened the day after Christmas. That when I broke my neck. Yeah.
Oh, is that when it was?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So let's take a little break here. We'll pick it back up. This is a Troy Lee Designs timeout. Stick around. We got a lot more coming with more Jerry Dostal.
Dunlop. There is a reason every AMA championship in the past decade was won on Dunlop tires. They are the best. Choose the best performing tire and a brand that has never wavered in their support of our sport. Choose Dunlop. Pro Circuit. Pro Circuit products are designed with one goal in mind: winning. Through passion and hard work, Pro Circuit has operated the most successful 250 team in the history of the sport. They use that same formula when developing exhaust, engine, and suspension parts for every brand. When only the highest level of performance is acceptable, trust Pro Circuit.
At Seat Concepts, our handcrafted seats are made in America. Visit us online or call today. Seat Concepts. Ride the world with us.
Something from nothing. That's what Nihilo Concepts is about. It starts with a spark, an idea, a concept, which leads to a design, and finishes with engineered excellence with the highest quality products created with durability in mind. All our products are made in the USA at our state-of-the-art facility in Stuart, Florida. Whether you are a weekend warrior, ride for fun, or at the highest level of competition, Nihilo Concepts offers innovative titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber parts for your dirt bike. We offer a wide variety of products that you can customize to your liking. Browse our site for foot pegs, brake tips, engine components, specialty tools, frame grip tape, lever grips, carbon fiber components, motor stands, our secondary on-switch, plus much more. Head to NihiloConcepts.com and see for yourself why factory teams like Red Bull KTM, Rockstar Husqvarna, Troy Lee Designs Gas, Orange Brigade, Club MX, KLM Gas, and some of the fastest riders in the world choose Nihilo Concepts.
The inspiration for Element, interestingly, was from working with my coaches. I sat down with those guys. I'm like, hey, here's what I'm doing. What should I do? And they looked at everything and they were like, you need more electrolytes, specifically sodium. And like most people do when they have a coach, I ignored what their advice was. And kind of like, well, I salt my food, I'm probably good. And it took me at least a year to finally listen to these guys and do what they asked me to do. And it was just a switch flip.
He had such a hard time eating the way that he felt the best, but also performing well in the sport that he loves. That was the kernel, the idea that kind of started this whole thing.
Not just water, but what comes with it. 95% of the issues people have while eating whole foods is resolved with correctly managing electrolytes.
The common perception around salt has been misguided based on what we now know about the latest clinical data, and certainly we're consuming far too much sugar.
We're surrounded, we're drowning in sugar in this country. I would love Element to be a part of that change and helping people to be healthy and fuel their performance without the sugar and the side effects of that.
We have a pretty simple mission: restore health through hydration.
It was just so obvious that this was the critical missing piece to the story, getting the electrolytes correct, in particular the sodium. There's really a legitimate need here to help people make this easier so that then they can go on to succeed in these important diet and lifestyle changes. And it's ironic that this salt piece was like the linchpin, the keystone to making all the rest of that work.
The ARC RC8 clutch perch with lever offers the highest quality that can be produced for a standard mount perch. The lever utilizes the durability of the ARC flex lever that allows movement forward and backward with an external pivot that eliminates the up and down play. The perch is made up of a billet aluminum along with an easy to use quick adjust wheel. Not only does the RC8 offer one of the lightest and smoothest pulls on the market, but it's guaranteed for life and is trusted by most professional factory teams. The ARC levers are easily one of the best bolt-on accessories for your bike.
welcome back. That was your Troy Lee Designs timeout. Get over to Troy Lee Designs right now and check out all of the gear line. They've got everything out for summer, and we're dang near ready for fall line to come out. The SC5 helmet, all kinds of new colorways. You can get that in multiple different variations, carbon fiber or composite, and all kinds of sizes from big baseball heads or watermelon heads to kids. They got it all. Get your name and number put on there. Get a full custom helmet. Mountain bike gear. TLD's got it all. And it is elite level stuff. Troy makes everything look fast. So check that out. Okay, we're jumping back in here with Jerry, and we're going to pick it up in 05. So from 01, you had a hiatus of, did some arena cross, started working some construction stuff on a water truck. And then what brought you back to racing in 05?
So was still riding, still young enough. And then I think it was with Casillas. We had like 4 of us, like 4 roommates.
Logan,
so,
was that the Whitewood?
Yeah, it
house?
was the Whitewood house, yeah. And at the time, I think I was working for AMR, like got an ambulance job. But like on my days off, we'd ride all the time, go out to the hills.
Well, you weren't an EMT yet.
In 03, I was for a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because when I took the hiatus, when I quit, and then I told you the whole story about the fire station, stopping by there. I actually made enough money doing the water truck thing where I put myself through fire science classes, and I took an EMT class.
Oh.
And then ended up getting an EMT job, but still riding on my days off and living with those guys,
Okay.
And then just ended up having an opportunity. I think I did some local stuff, maybe a couple local races. And then there was a privateer Honda team that gave me an opportunity to race in 05, asked if I was willing to do it. So, after working, being in the back of an ambulance when somebody's puking and you're about to start puking and you're putting your head up by the driver, he's like, what are you doing up here? I'm like, I'm going to lose it if I don't, So racing sounded pretty fun, and it's it was actually pretty cool because it gave me a whole new perspective. And I knew it wasn't going to last forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was something to be said about just doing what you love for a living.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you get to make a whole career out of it or just doing it as long as you can. And I just had that mindset, I'm really going to enjoy this, leading up to that, it was all those years of racing would always get nervous and put a lot of pressure on myself. And these last couple of years, I knew it was just for fun, and it was obviously still tried to do well, but just, I remember traveling and kind of savoring it and soaking it all in, just going I know what the real world's like now and have to get a real job. So it was just pretty rad to have another opportunity and be able to do it for a couple more years. So,
there's some guys, some other podcasters even that say privateers shouldn't be a part of the program, and I don't dig that. I think that, and I'm torn on this. So at what point should those privateers pull the plug and go get started with the rest of their lives? But when I hear something like that, I think, man, that's right. If you're enjoying it and you have the funds to do it or have a way to go do it, that window of opportunity shuts by the time you're 30-ish, right? It will never happen again.
Yeah.
So why not just, go and have a swing at it? At least then you're looking back with no regrets. Yeah, exactly. I did that, man. It was a cool experience. I had fun, or whatever.
And if you're not having fun, what's the point, right? If you're just, you're doing it and you're miserable, then it's on you for not, pursuing something else, or maybe saying it's time to pull the plug. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just even traveling again, just being around the races, just was having a blast doing it, And obviously, still making enough money to do it, you know what I mean? So back then, the contingency money was pretty good. It all added up, right? If you're making main events, the AMA money, the contingency money, some of the sponsor money, so hey, I'm still making a living,
you're making a decent living. It was not, you're not going to crush it.
I mean, a couple years, there was one year, I think 06, actually did, racing all the Supercross, made pretty good money that year, between everything. So, but yeah, man, something to be said about being able to do what you love for a living, because I think a lot of people don't really get that opportunity,
Yeah,
so.
I agree. So you did 05 on that little team. You did Wonder Warthog in 06?
No, 06 was...
Or that was
it was SoCal Yamaha. It was some of the same guys. SoCal Gear was a big sponsor, and they put up a lot of the money. There was, a couple other sponsors that kind of made it happen, and yeah, we got paid a small salary, and those bikes were awesome that year. Those 6 YZ450.
Yeah.
I remember Dubach like helping, DRD was a sponsor of the team, and we had Enzo suspension, Ross would actually came out and tested a couple times for that season, and just those guys helped with the bike setup so much, and that thing was amazing,
Yeah.
like having their knowledge and expertise, because even stuff from the years before I didn't know about, and Dubach would come out, hey, let's try this. Let's even, I'm a little taller, but cutting the subframe and just the way it handled in corners, just little tricks they had, and those guys were great.
Well, Doug was like the inside man because he did all the development on the Yamaha. So any little quirks they had or things that made it better, he knew about it.
He did, yeah. And he was cool to help out with that year.
Yeah, Doug's great. So what stands out from those 3 years? Because you did some Team Solitaire, you were with Wonder Warthog a little bit, and then that Yamaha team. Anything stand out in those seasons?
Yeah, I think that 06 season, I felt like I was riding really well, had good speed. Like I said, the bike was so amazing. The first couple rounds, I was not getting starts. I was just really struggling, and the thing would wheelie, try to mess with the whole shot device and try to different settings. But I feel like that year, as soon as I figured my starts out, started making every main and being around the top 10, 11th, 12th or whatever in a lot of the mains. So,
yeah.
And then, that kind of, I think some of those results led, me into the next year, which Ryan Clark gave me a shot, on his team. And I remember going out there riding with him in 07 before the Supercross season. We were doing a lot of training out in Arizona. And the first race, it was pretty stacked field, 450 class was pretty deep. And I think I ended up 13th or something like that.
Yeah,
made the main, got 13th. And that was a pretty decent result, especially considering how stacked that field was. And then going into that next race, it was Phoenix. I think it was the next weekend. We're up in Arizona. Shoot, I can't remember what the track was. Way off the 10 somewhere up there. Casa something.
Casa Grande.
Casa Grande. Yeah, we're up
I
there.
built that with Button.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they still had a Supercross track up there. I think. I don't know who was it. Who's the other Arizona guys that were really good?
Well, Ted
Blows.
Ted
Blows.
The
The
okay.
Bloses, I think, had the track out there or something.
Okay. I'm sure they reworked it. Jimmy and I built those literally ourselves with a rusty ass old bulldozer and a loader.
That's crazy. That place out in the middle of nowhere, man.
Nowhere.
Yeah. But so yeah, we were out there practicing, and we were doing a 20-lap moto. And I just remember feeling really good on the bike that year, and had a little bit of momentum from the 06, to be kind of around the top 10.
Yeah, dude, 13th at the opener is no joke, because the openers are always, most of the time you don't even see privateers in the main event.
And like I said, the year before, towards the end of the season, started making every single main event in the 450 class and being somewhere around the top 10, or like I said. So had a little bit of momentum going into that next year, and then I ended up breaking my ankle at that Casa Grande track. We were a day or two before the Phoenix Supercross, and that put me out the rest of the season. Ended up having surgery, and that was it. All she wrote, really.
Bummer.
So, and tried to come back for outdoors, and it was kind of a disaster. Just didn't go too well. So
yeah.
But
what are you gonna do?
Same old story.
Yeah. So then 08 was your last year?
Yeah, 08.
And that was Warthog?
Yeah, I had a Riverside dealership that gave me a bike or two.
Okay.
And then Warthog was taking my bikes to the races. My buddy Manny, he would kind of help out with some of the funding, he was just a big diehard fan, cool dude, and he was just super high energy, and so he helped with some of the expenses getting to the races and stuff like that. And nothing special in that season. I think I might have got 10th in a heat race probably 9 or 10 times. So that's some sort of record, I guess. Missed it by 1 10 times. Made a couple main events, and that was pretty much it. So
okay.
Yeah, like I said, at that point it was just for fun. And
okay, so at the end of this season, then you went and started doing a bunch of European stuff, and there's a German series that kicked off. I don't know if it was before that, but about this time, and a lot of guys were going over and doing it.
Guys, because
I think I went over.
Opportunity for make some decent money over there.
Yeah, and the Stuttgart one, I want to say, didn't they give away a car?
Stuttgart.
One of them they gave away a car, and that's the one I went to, or maybe it was.
I think it was the final round, right? I think that's when they did the prize. I don't know. I never made it that far because that's we get into it with the broken neck. But because I was over there in November, I know Cole Siebler had gone over there every year and rode for the same team, so he kind of hooked me up with a spot on this team. And we did Zurich was the first round, then it was Stuttgart and Chemnitz, East Germany.
Okay.
And so it was pretty fun. Like, had a couple decent results over there, made some good money. And then there was like a month off before the last race. The last race, I think, where they gave away the car and like the big, you know, you won the championship and all that stuff, was in January. And so flew back to the States, obviously, and was here for like the month of December. And that's when I had the big injury, you know. We were out there riding. So.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to that up to date there. And that brings up our Seat Concepts hot seat question. You guys need a new seat for your bike. Go to Seat Concepts and check those guys out. Also, if you have a dual sport adventure bike, look at the comfort seat. If you guys ride in wet weather a lot, they have weather specific seats. Seat Concepts makes anything you need. They're awesome. Check those guys out. And they're a huge supporter of ours and of the sport. So 08, wintertime, we're riding in the hills. You said it's the day after Christmas. I don't remember the exact timeline of it.
Yeah, it was.
And we had cut the coolest track up in the middle. Unfortunately, it was at the very top of the set of hills, kind of a ride to
just
get back
to get
there.
up there, just to even like drive our trucks to the top of the mountain, and then from there it was like another like 10-minute ride.
Yeah,
it was like just in the boonies, like out there, like in the middle of nowhere.
And this is, you know, this was always, we've always done this, but it was just typically when we first started, there was open land here in Temecula, and development, urban sprawl has kind of pushed us trying to find these places where we can make a track, and it pushed us way up.
And we were always looking for new spots anyways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're always looking for like a cool new spot and like carve out the secret track. And
that track was awesome where you got hurt. Like we were having so much fun. I remember that track, even specific parts of it. I'm just like, this is awesome.
I do too. I remember like, and it was freezing that day. I remember that. It was like,
it was cold.
But the track got rough, you know? I mean, it was like kind of like a looser sand, I guess, almost, you know, once we tilled through all the grass and stuff. And I remember like you and I were doing a moto together. Like, you know, we were just out there battling, and I had like Supercross suspension because that was like the same setup I was racing in Germany.
Okay.
And so it was that bike, and I think it had the Supercross suspension, and the track started getting pretty rough. And I think we were doing like a 20-minute moto, and I was behind you, and there was a fast downhill section. I don't know if you remember. It was probably like fourth gear.
Little bush on the left.
Little bush, yeah. And so I remember the track started to get kind of beat up, and I'm like trying to show you a wheel, or just, you know, we're messing around. And like, so I moved over in the like smoother area of the track. You know, you carve the track out, you can just go wherever. And just remember going fourth gear, pretty much wide open on a 450. And there was like a little bush, and I like just did a little wheelie through it, and it had like a little rock or a tree stump or root or something solid in there, and it just ejected me over the bars. And I think you were ahead of me, so you didn't see the crash. But it was gnarly, like fourth gear wide open over the bars. And I remember being in the air just going, oh my God, like just knew I was done. You know, you had enough time to think while you're in the air to just be like, this is going to be bad.
Did you think to like tuck and roll, or you just didn't have time?
I don't remember. I just remember going like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Because you know when it's going to be a bad one. Like it was such high speed. You know?
It was right when you chopped the throttle.
I think I did tuck and roll because I broke both my hands. I remember like sticking my hands out. So obviously they hit first, and then came the head and neck. And I just remember laying there, and I knew my hands were broke. I had like some weird numbness and like tingling coming down my arms, you know. But the crazy thing was my neck wasn't like hurting that bad. It almost like felt a little stiff. But I think it was like the nerve sensation and like the neuro deficit sensation that kind of made me think like maybe you should just chill and stay here. Because I remember trying to get up and be like, it was like me, you, and Phil Lawrence, and like.
Was Phil there?
Phil was there.
I remember Mike Sleater was with us.
And there was like 5 or 6 of us, you know, and like.
Yeah.
I think it was Phil that talked sense into me, because I'm like, I remember laying there going like, I don't want to pay for this helicopter, you know, like a life flight or whatever. And thinking it was going to be like a $5,000 medical bill. And then Phil's like, hey, dude, would you rather be paralyzed the rest of your life or, you know, pay some money? And I'm like, you got a point, you know, like you kind of.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to get up and hop on the back of one of the guys' bikes and ride back, you know.
Well, we were having that conversation. And I remember this because you and I that summer had gone through EMT school together. Which I didn't know you'd already been once. So we just refreshed it or what?
Not because I let it go. I let the cert go. Yeah.
Okay. So we took an EMT school. We were both thinking fire service.
Yeah, we were already thinking ahead.
You get hurt at Christmas. This is literally 4 months later. And I remember you go, yeah, I'm having like these firing pains down my arms. And I was like, Because I was asking you, hey, do you think if we helped you up, you could get on the back
Yeah.
and we could just roll you down? Like,
Yeah.
how bad is it? I was trying to.
And no matter how much medical training, like we're the worst when it comes to being hurt. Like we're not going in an ambulance if we don't have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to cut my leg off to put me in the back of an ambulance. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I just remember you saying the shooting arms, and I was kind of like, oh man,
ding,
I
ding,
remember
ding,
hearing
remember,
that in medic school. Like, okay. And I probably didn't do a real good job of palpating the back. Like we were.
Yeah.
I hadn't literally won.
It would have made a difference anyway. Like, what are you gonna do?
I don't know what I could have felt, but we hadn't run one call. We just went to EMT school, and it shows you, kind of leading to a bigger topic, is like EMTs don't know much.
Yeah.
Like that's what they have at tracks, and
it stands for empty my trash, right?
Basically. Yeah. Anyway, whole nother subject, but thank God Mike Sleater had GPS on his phone. Do you remember that? Because we were called 911 and they're like, well, where are you? And we're like, dude, we're out here.
I don't remember
middle
that.
of nowhere.
Yeah.
He had GPS on his phone and
back in 05.
Yeah, it was rare back then. And he was able to give them coordinates to where we were.
Yeah.
They brought the fire engine in.
No, they brought the helicopter.
Well, they started with the fire engine. It was down low. Remember where our trucks were.
Yeah.
And they pulled out a litter. They were going to come grab you. I said, dude, it's a 15-minute ride.
I said, and it was almost dark. Yeah.
And so they finally, because the captain has to start the helicopter, we couldn't, tell them to dispatch it. They're like, well, we'll let us get eyes on it.
Somebody has to request it. Yeah.
So, but thank God for Sleater having that, because I don't know how the engine would have found us. And then I went down and argued with him. I'm like, hey, hiking him out's not an option, guys. Like, you need to there's place to land a helicopter up there, but there's no other way to get him out of here.
I don't remember exactly how. I know it was far. It was
far from
steep, our trucks. Yeah.
There was like these steep little, walls we had to go up. I'm like, you'll never walk him down. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so
for sure.
I argued with the guy long enough that he's like, reluctantly sent it. And if you remember, well, you were freezing. I remember all of us putting our jackets and stuff on you because you were shivering.
Well, I mean, it was wet and the ground was wet.
Yeah.
And just laying there forever. Like, you're hot when you're riding, but then you sit there and then a little bit
and
of
you're
shock.
in shock for sure. Yeah. You're shocky. So anyway, they flew the helicopter in, took you out. I mean, literally, it was dusk. It was 30 more minutes, and he said they couldn't fly.
Exactly. Yeah, they have a cutoff time, when it gets dark. So super lucky with that one. Yeah.
Crazy, dude. So tell me how that was. Like, kind of talk us through. Because you were telling me, I remember you telling me about them putting the halo in.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, that was gnarly. The whole ironic part about that whole thing is like.
And what did you end up breaking?
C6 on that one. So you ride for 20 years and you might break some. We all have injuries and surgeries. That's part of the game, but it's not very common to see broken necks and backs. For as much as you ride, think about the hours over your whole lifetime. All the practice laps and all the motos and races and stuff. So it was kind of ironic that I was going to do that last Germany race in January, and that was going to be it. I was going to move on to the fire service and try to move on with my life. And so I ended up shattered the C6. And so I just remember laying there in the hospital and they're doing the whole trauma thing, and they get me back to MRI or CT, and one of the doctors comes back and he's like, hey, this is pretty serious, I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's a fracture or something, but he's like, no, you're this is a very serious injury. And I could tell by his tone of voice and just the look on his face, I'm like, oh shit, it's kind of scary. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to think about being paralyzed or think about, it's ultimately your worst fear, right? Yeah. As a racer or rider, or even just in general. But yeah, they ended up, so they told me it's going to require surgery. Ended up putting me in a halo, which was crazy at the time because there was I wasn't under general anesthesia. They just they give me a shot of lidocaine or something, numb my skin up basically. And then I remember them coming into the room and there was two doctors and they fit the halo around your head. They grabbed the screws and manually just started screwing it in while you're wide awake. And I just remember being like, dude, this is torture, I felt
you can hear it grinding into the bone.
You can hear it, and just the pressure of it, I think, was the worst. It was imagine I always tell people it's like Andre the Giant, trying to grab your head and squish it like a grape. That's kind of what it felt like. Mm-hmm. And then after the halo was on, ended up with 45 pounds of weight hanging off the back of that thing just to put your neck back in traction and kind of get it in the right alignment. So, and then they ended up doing the surgery, and it was Dr. Kramer. He was awesome, man. He did a great job.
In Orange County?
No, it was in the one in Mobile. What is it? It was Riverside County Regional Medical Center at the time, and they call it something else now.
Okay.
And yeah, man, I got lucky with him as a surgeon because, I mean, obviously it was like the worst recovery, right? Like just the pain from that, and like getting discharged from the hospital a couple weeks later and going home and just like so stiff and so much pain. But ultimately ended up having like a full recovery. It took about a year, and really just had like a little bit of loss of range of motion, but nothing crazy, like no restrictions, and it was pretty much, you know, able to still live a full life and like, do whatever I wanted after that too.
Did they rod it, or did they put a cage on it? What did they do?
A cage, yeah. They like, I think they use like some sort of synthetic material to kind of replace that disc, you know, that shattered disc. And then they put like, I mean, it looks like I swallowed a cell phone when you see.
Oh, really?
When you see like x-rays, you know, it's like this big like square looking or rectangle looking thing here in the front, and then like a plate in the back, and it's like 6 or 8 screws or whatever. So it's like a cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it bug you at all now?
No. I mean, it's
range of motions.
I mean, the second one, we'll get into the second broken neck, but yeah, I mean, that was such, I mean, I'm so lucky to be alive after that, you know, like you really are down and out and you have a lot of perspective, but like looking back about like how much that impact was and how high speed of that crash was, like I could have easily been paralyzed or dead, you know. So I got super lucky and fortunate, and it could have been a lot worse
because we were so remote, you know. 3, 4, and 5 controls your diaphragm, right? Like if you'd have broken one of those and stopped breathing,
done.
We couldn't. What are we gonna do way out there?
Nothing.
Dang, man, that's crazy. Okay, so then what? You heal up from that, and what was kind of your next thing? I mean, I remember you saying, dude, I don't know if I can get hired in the fire service now. Like, will they hire someone?
I remember like tripping on that too when I was in the, you know, in the whatever, the emergency room or ICU, and just kept asking the doctor, am I going to get, you know, because that was like the plan, right? Like that was our plan, and that was, you know, at least like racing, it teaches you, no matter like where you ended up in your racing career, I think, you know, there's a lot of like discipline, just a lot of hard work, a lot of perseverance, and like, you know, when shit happens in racing, you just deal with it, right? You just like, you don't complain about it. You do better the next time. Like we're always, you know, it's a very competitive deal, obviously. So like, you know, that was like the mindset and the focus was like trying to bring that same energy and that same focus from racing into like the next thing. I'm sure you've dealt with it too. You know, you saw some of the guys that are slackers, but you have like a certain work ethic that it teaches you. Yeah. And it kind of does translate into other parts of your life or other careers. But so
I tell everybody, this sport, if you've competed at a high level at all, you have every tool you need to go be successful at anything. You just have to have the same focus you have here and put it there.
Yeah, totally.
And there's, you know, like
it's like a good life lesson. You know, a lot of good life lessons you learn from the sport too. So
totally.
Yeah. And
Turbo Reef went on to be a fireman. People might remember that name.
Yeah, I do remember him.
He's up in Santa Barbara County.
Yeah.
Damon Huffman's LAPD.
Okay. I remember listening to his podcast when you did it with him. Yeah. That story sounded kind of crazy.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah. Talon Hawkins now is just in EMT school. He's about to graduate.
Oh, is he?
He did a ride along with our department up in San Bernardino.
You?
No, San Bernardino City.
Okay, yeah.
Another captain, but
a little more busy.
Yeah, he saw some stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I told guys, look.
I think Olaf, right? Didn't he?
Olaf got hired with me, Joe Olaf.
Yeah.
And he retired medically with some shoulder issues, but it's a good fit for moto guys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that more, but anyway, so what was your, as you got healthy and like kind of back to normal physically, what was your next thing? Did you
so they
back on EMT
like
rig?
Road recovery, you know, like Jimmy Button and his mom, like I don't know how long the foundation was around, but those guys are awesome, you know, like they raised some money because it was like, obviously I was living at my sister's house at the time, and you know, I was still like racing that year or whatever, and just sitting there with no job, broken neck, going, what the hell, you know? So those guys, like,
do you remember we did a ride day for you?
Yeah,
I totally forgot about it, and when I was looking for photos, it came up. Do it for Dostal.
Yeah, bro.
The Do It for Dostal ride day.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, I appreciate that, like everybody that pitched in and made that happen, because that was a pretty rough time, you know. And then you're just like the stress of finances and what are you gonna do, and then just not knowing like if you're gonna make a full recovery and heal up and all that. So Yeah, like once I got healthier, like Sleater had started like it was like a motocross like school or training, you know.
Oh yeah,
and then
oh gosh, what was the name of it? Yeah,
something Haven.
The Hive?
Something?
Haven.
Yeah, something.
The Hive.
The Hive. Close enough.
Close enough.
And then I ended up getting hooked up. Like I worked with Weston Pike a little bit. That was like his first year.
I remember that.
His first year racing Supercross, you know, kind of was, I mean, he ended up being way better than I ever was, but, you know, like he was just learning, and spent a couple months, you know, before the Supercross season and the first couple rounds kind of like working with him at the tracks and like, I guess, a riding coach, if you will. And then he went on to do bigger and better things, you know, and then I ended up getting hired with the ambulance company again. After that, you know, my neck healed up enough and got an EMT job again, and that was it, you know, started working towards a fire career at that point.
And dude, I remember you stayed an EMT for like a long time.
Yeah, it was like 5 years or something like that.
5 years as an EMT is
4 or 5 years, yeah.
It's a forever.
Yeah.
Because that job sucks.
Yeah. Because, you know, for a while, I wasn't sure whether I was going to, you know, like we talked about getting into the fire. I was kind of like on the fence about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so finally it was like, pull the trigger, you know, and it's like, you know, I met my fiance, and I was working for AMR and was single at the time, and met her, and then it, you know, we fell in love pretty quick, and like ended up having a kid pretty fast. My son Jax, you know, he was born within like the first year of us like dating, you know, and then I was like, I need to get my shit together, you know, and that's when I pulled the trigger, went to medic school. And
where'd you go?
I went to NCTI in Riverside.
Oh, okay.
The same, I think
that's
same
where
place you did. Yeah. Yeah, that little strip mall area, you know, yeah.
Nothing fancy.
No, I felt like $10,000, but you know.
Dude, okay, so I want to talk about medic school for a second because we came out of EMT school, and I was working as a paid call, just like weekends when I had weekends off, because I was managing Troy's team at the time.
Yeah.
And so I'd go up when we didn't have races, which is, you know, maybe only, you know, we had a lot of races. So yeah. I'd go up Saturday, do the trainings. I rode out a couple of times because you could staff up the engine and be the fourth man. And I'll never forget the first call I ran was a gnarly TC rollover. A car off the freeway, rolls over at speed, ejects a 5-year-old.
Oh, shit.
The driver's hanging out the window with a big avulsion flap. The medic is on him, and he goes, "Hey, go check the kid." And I'm like,
dude.
I'm an EMT dude with 0 calls.
Yeah, you're all like,
go check the 5-year-old that got ejected.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet, yeah, let me do that. I go over to this kid, and I'm like, he was shockingly fine. And
really?
I go, "Hey, dude, are you okay?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." I go, "Anything hurt?" He goes, "Oh, my head a little bit." I'm like, "Okay, just stay here. Don't move."
Yeah.
You know, that was my assessment,
that was your
and treatment. Yeah.
Pretty solid, dude. Yeah.
But I only ran, I think, 3 calls as an EMT before I went to medic school.
Yeah. But even after like all these years of being a medic, you get a call like that, it's still going to get your like, you know, it's going to get your adrenaline going a little more.
Yeah.
Well,
but at least you
know what to do.
You've got a Rolodex of calls where you can go, okay, I've seen this. And
it's definitely more of a high stress call for sure.
Yeah. I went to medic school with no experience. And so
like you did. I remember that.
You went with 5 years as an EMT. So at least you had a foundation of like, we went in, the first couple weeks, and I didn't know the terminology for even the equipment.
I just remember you being on like this fast track mission. You're like, dude, I got to get this done. Like, for you, it was like a matter like time crunch, you know, and like you were like super determined to make it happen as quick as you could. Even I guess some better advice, or you know, you had people telling you, hey, maybe you should work as an EMT for a year, and you're like, hell no, dude, I don't got time for this. So
I was like, and
that's pretty impressive.
I had kids.
Yeah,
I mean, I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. You made it through, because I mean, most people that did what you did, knowing what you know now, like,
I don't recommend it to anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was
very
hard.
A lot of people probably wouldn't have passed, or I'm sure they would have failed. But I think that's where that determination and that hard work and just that work ethic comes in, and you just made it happen. You know.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I think I got lucky with the preceptor I had in my field time.
Yeah.
Because
was
didactic.
He a moto guy?
No. But in my didactic, I'm intelligent enough. I could study it, and I got through it.
Yeah.
You go to clinicals. I can start IVs and do basic stuff, right? Like the skills stuff, I was okay. It was more like, you know, the assessment and the experience side, right?
Yeah.
So I get to field, and it was a guy up in Apple Valley who was just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a dick out to jam me up. If I'd have wound up with the wrong guy, I might, I don't know how it would have gone.
Yeah, you would have had to redo medic school again, probably. But yeah.
He was very patient with me at first, and he just goes, "You just need more reps." So we'd switch over and go to busier houses and like just get a bunch of calls. And he was an awesome medic, like really good bedside demeanor. And
bedside manner, yeah.
That was I modeled everything I do after him. So that made a big difference.
You got lucky.
I did get
you
lucky.
You could have had just a total dick that
Yes.
just is looking to like, drill you on the protocol book, or like if you jam you up during the call, and like there's a lot of people that take pride because they're like, it's their ego that's on the line, or they feel like that's their product they're putting out there. But yeah, you got lucky.
I will say this, dude. I see this in the fire service so much, and I want to talk more about this, but like it's a bunch of kids who, when they were kids, either got bullied or had this happen to them, and now they're getting their lunch money back.
Yeah.
You're being a dick to new guys for no reason other than someone was a dick to you, and now you're going to carry that on.
Yeah, you definitely see that. You know what I mean? But I feel like a lot of that is just kind of character flaws. Like people are kind of, people are setting their personalities, right? Setting their ways.
Yeah.
And some of the people I see doing that, they're just it's just who they are as people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I guess.
Or maybe there's a little bit of the culture, like maybe they had an old school captain, or like maybe they struggled, and instead of getting kind of like some mentoring, some help, like people came down on them, and they just figured this is just how it is, and like kind of the tradition of it or whatever. But yeah, you do see it, and it's kind of like
it's like coming from an abusive home, right?
Yeah.
Hurt people, right?
Yeah, 100%. Abused become the abuser. Yeah.
But it's not healthy.
Well, it's not, because it's already a stressful job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the last thing you need is like issues with coworkers, or like and captain or whoever, like, and once you get a reputation, it's almost impossible to get rid of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it sticks with you. You know what I mean? No matter how good you do after, so you have to like play the game. So there's just a lot of that like culture stuff that comes into play. But yeah, I feel the same way when I see people treating people like that.
Yeah,
so,
and I say something. I'm like, dude, who are you? Like, calm down, dude.
Yeah.
Like, were you awesome day one on the job?
Yeah.
Like help him.
Yeah.
If you need to go out and train. Don't just scream at him and
Yeah.
I hate that.
I do too.
So tell me how medic school went for you. And you were on the part-time program? Because I had to do part-time because I was still working.
Same. I was working full-time at AMR, at the ambulance company.
It's a lot, dude.
So luckily I was doing 24 hours. Like my shifts were 24-hour shifts. And so I think like Tuesdays, Thursdays was medic school didactic. And then I was working like Fridays and Sundays, and every third, like Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'd have to do a couple trades. But it was, I was either at work doing 24s or at medic school, So, and like, my son was 3 months old, so, my fiance, she's a trooper, man. Like, she just stayed at home, and that was even before the fire, you know what I mean? Because, like, you can attest to, like, fire wives, like, what they put up with, and, the ones that stick by her side, and she just handled everything, you know what I mean? Because I was never home. Like, took care of our son, all the grocery shopping, all the, like, details of the house, and she's been like that from day one, and she's never complained, and always been by my side. And we had a bunch of other stuff happen, like broke my neck the second time, and we can get into that a little bit if we have time. But yeah, so
we have time. I want to go backwards for a second, because I had completely forgotten about this till you and I brought it up the other day. We went to EMT school, and then one of the prerequisites for medic school is A&P.
Yes. Oh God.
And we were hunting for an A&P class, and there's paramedic anatomy and physiology, and then there's like nursing and doctorate level A&P.
Well, there was like A&P 101 and 102, right? And some of the I think NCTI accepted if you just had 101 or one of the classes. You didn't have to have them both.
And we took them both, or what was it?
We just took one.
Well, whatever. Ours was way more in depth than the ones that are specifically designed for medics.
Yeah, it was.
And
but we had to get
Crystal,
the same thing.
What was the teacher's name? Crystal.
I don't know. I don't remember the last.
She's
name.
Awesome. She hooked us up and got us in because she had worked a little bit in the moto world.
Yeah. Well, I just remember she like took some other people off the.
She did.
Yeah, they were like a wait list, or there was like a whatever. Like
she snuck us in, dude. She hooked us up fat because
there was like 60 people standing around, 70 people, like out like a 30-person class, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we're so screwed. We're not getting in here, Yeah. Yeah.
So then we get in this class, dude, and do you remember like all of the histology stuff we had to do? Like the cells, looking through this, and identifying different cells in a microscope. Like, that is not anything to do with paramedicine.
You know what? I think like I
simple squamous
purged that out of my mind.
Did you?
The Krebs cycle and all that, but like I just remember sitting there on the dissect the cat day when they bring the cat out in formaldehyde or whatever, and I'm just like, I think we shared a cat or something. I'm looking over at you going like, what the hell are we doing?
And the
like,
first thing it says,
what are we doing right now?
Okay, grab the bone saw and cut its tail off. And I'm like,
I feel like Jeffrey Dahmer over here, dude. Like,
that was the most disgusting thing I've ever done, I think.
Yeah. It
cut the tail off.
Smell, like the smell, and just like, dude, I'm like, the hoops we had to jump through, huh?
Yeah, cut the tail off, skin it.
Really makes you ponder your racing career. Like, I should have been better.
Yeah, I should have worked harder. Why didn't I do those 40s?
Yeah. But yeah, no, those are.
That was a wild class.
And it's like, you think about now, I've been a medic for like 10 or 11 years now, and like all that stuff just like not pertinent to.
I know.
I mean, maybe you have some of it, but not very much of that. A lot of that, you know.
The A&P, not much.
Yeah, not much. It's just jumping through hoops.
So medic school goes okay. Where'd you do your ride-alongs?
It was in Riverside County.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Ended up doing one of the fire departments out there, and
everything went okay.
Yeah, I mean, good and bad, you know.
Yeah.
I passed, and I just remember my preceptor. He was like, "If I don't trust you to work on my family, then you're not, I'm not putting you out there, you know." And so it just took me a little while to kind of get that confidence, you know, because I had the experience from AMR and I worked with a medic, but it's different when it's you like in the hot seat and doing everything. And so it just took me a little while to kind of like just be confident. And just,
this is another thing that I will say is a parallel between paramedicine and fire service in general and racing is it's mental. A lot of it's mental.
It is.
Because I'll come back, like I had a knee injury, 9 years ago or something, and I was off for 8 months. And dude, when I went back, I was super like timid, and I'm like, oh man, do I remember my protocols and my dosages, and I struggled for like about a month just to kind of get my feet under me.
And plus, there's some pressure, right? Like you have like pressure to perform, and and they have liability if you don't. You know what I mean? Like
and I finally just went, dude, just you're the man.
Yeah,
you
like in the corner, like shedding a tear, trying to pump yourself up, like I mean, there are similarities, that you learn from racing, or you're being put under like pressure situations that kind of translate. You know? But it's kind of what we chose for ourselves. We wanted to do a career where it was going to be interesting and have some days off,
Well, they sold it on us. This is what, the conversations we had when we were both talking about getting into it is like, you work 10 days a month. Mm-hmm. The pay, you're not going to get rich, but it's steady.
And it was decent money.
It's decent, and the pension is what pays off, right?
Exactly,
I mean, that's where the job actually becomes worth it, is once you retire.
Yeah. And you still have to be smart. I think like that's something I wish, when I first got hired 10 years ago, they would have like, have some people that almost put on a class with that stuff. Cause it's like, you still have to put money into your pension, and it's like, if you're not putting enough in right away, like you kind of start doing the retirement calculation. We both got started late. It's not like we started at 18 and can retire at 50. I was 35 when I got hired, so.
You're PEPRA too, right? So 57?
Yeah. 2.757. So, but yeah, that's huge, because it's like, you don't think about that shit when you're like younger or like changing careers. But like, once you start getting up to like our age, I'm like, oh shit, like you want to start crunching numbers and you want to be ready. You know what I mean? You don't want to get caught with your pants down and realize when you retire, you got to go get a job at Home Depot or be the greeter at Walmart or something,
Yeah.
So
get a job clapping away pigeons down at SeaWorld.
Yeah. Might be into that kind of thing. I don't know.
Okay. So you get through medic school. Did you go back to AMR and reclass?
I was still working at AMR. So I reclassed, and I had applied, for the department that I'm working at. Like I had applied, when I was still in medic school, like 6 months out. They had like.
Do you have to be a medic to work there?
No, but like it definitely helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus like more pay and all that stuff. But I mean, we both know like not every department. Oh, our buddy Kevin, remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was the first one at like. He took that EMT class with us in 08, and then he went back like doing flipping houses with his uncle, and then just threw in an application as like never had a day of experience working as EMT. Like I don't think he knew anything about the fire service, and ended up getting hired at LA County, like one of the best departments, like so. But I lost my train of thought. I forgot what question you
Well,
asked.
yeah, a lot of it's just timing. But I was saying you reclassed as a medic.
Okay, yeah.
And then how did that hiring process go? How long were you on the box as a medic?
A couple months.
Oh, okay, not long.
Because I already had my app in, at some other departments and stuff like that. So, but I was working in Movell as like a brand new medic, doing like night shifts, like saw a lot of crazy stuff, working
Movell's dirty.
Weekend Movell nights, it was busy too. So it was good as a new medic just to get experience and kind of like, just trial by fire. You know what I mean? You just get in there and you get comfortable pretty quick just by doing it over and over and running all those calls. But yeah, and then shortly after that, a few months later, that's when I, got hired with the current department, been there ever since. So,
hey, let me ask you this. What was your first fire interview?
I think
you don't have to even say where, but like I did one with LA City. It was my first one.
Yeah.
And it was the most, I'd never done an interview.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever been in a suit before that.
You are pretty good with the gift of gab, and you're a good talker, and
it was
spoken, I should say.
Hard F. I failed that thing so hard.
Did you go in there pretty cocky, thinking I got this?
No.
Oh, no.
Well,
or confident.
Like you said, I thought I'm good at speaking and answering questions, and I like to consider myself relatively intelligent. Dude, this chick
destroyed you or what?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It was a bomb.
Yeah.
And then, you take all these, I must have taken 25 tests and had at least 15 interviews.
But how much harder was it back then? It was a lot more competitive and people wanted to do the job. I mean, you'd go like test for LA County, take the written test, and there'll be 10,000 people. You know, they'd have to break it up in a couple days and like, so
I remember Orange County's I took, and it was at their convention center. I don't know how many thousands of people were there. Mike Kudrowski was there.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get hired, but he wouldn't go to medic school.
Like, think about our sport, like a legend like that, and he's like, not too many people retire from our sport. I don't know how it is anymore, you know what I mean? But like, unless you're winning championship after championship, you're going to probably have to get a job, So,
well, these guys aren't smart with the money they make early.
Yeah.
They think it's just going to keep coming, and that's, that's just being young.
Throw it in Bitcoin and own high, dude.
That's it. Go back in time and buy Bitcoin.
Be living on your yacht right now.
But yeah, it was like thousands and thousands of people, and you're like, how many people are hiring? Oh, 7. Oh, good. So my
7?
odds are 7.
Yeah.
So that's all changed too, but like we've had this conversation, kind of the fire service that we got sold on. We tried so hard because we were trying to get hired during the recession. After 2008.
Yeah.
And nobody was hiring.
Nobody.
I mean, the department I'm with now was on a 5-year hiring freeze. They didn't touch anybody. I think a lot of people are the same way.
So competitive too, and then you got guys like us trying to compete with guys that either worked at other places or have like years of experience and stuff like that too. So no matter how good you do in the interview, and when it's that selective, like your shot, your chances are not very good. So, yeah.
So tell me how your process went with your department where you're at now.
Pretty
seamless.
Yeah, pretty seamless. Yeah. Like it was, through in the app, and they basically offered me the position, and then you do a little bit of.
You had like an academy, right?
Like an Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I already had an academy under my belt.
Okay.
And then eventually they send you because they can, at the time, like they could hire people limited term, like a LT. I don't know if you guys.
We had LTs. Yeah,
LTs and permanent people. Yeah. So I got hired LT, and then when I got the perm spot, they sent me to the academy, and and that was it. So you just have to get through like your ride-outs, your medic ride-outs. They got to make sure you're not going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
You have your FTO. You do a couple shifts, and like I think one was on an ambulance, one was on the engine, and they got to give you the blessing and sign you off, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, it's not a bad place to work. It's just it's having the family. We talked about this a little bit. It's kind of ironic because I didn't want to take a job in the motocross industry where you're kind of like don't have, I guess, the stability. Like some of these companies come and go, or
you don't want to be gone every weekend.
But it's kind of ironic now. Just to make money with the way inflation and everything is just being real. Like definitely not complaining. Like I have an amazing job that gives you the opportunity to work as much overtime as you want. But if you want to live a certain lifestyle, you gotta work a lot. So
yeah. Sadly, and I think this isn't every place, but it's bigger departments. All of them have had staffing crisis for the past, ever since COVID.
Yeah.
And we're not caught up. I know both LA departments are not caught up. I mean, there's so many people retiring.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a revolving door.
It's just a revolving door.
And
there's
attrition and promotions and all that stuff. And like,
I don't know if this is something you find in your department, because I mean it's kind of like all the same circus, just different clowns.
Yeah.
But we don't find a lot of people wanting to do this job anymore.
Same. Yeah.
And I think
when you look at the medic programs, like they, used to be a wait list to get into them, and now they, out of 36 spots, they might fill 12 or 15.
Is that right?
Yeah. So even just a shortage of medics in general, and
everybody wants to be a YouTuber.
Everyone wants to be an influencer, a podcaster. And
stupid podcasters.
Yeah.
Well, it as it turns out, like now we're working, kind of the standard for where I'm at is about 18 days a month.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So you're working your 10 that you're supposed to work your shift, and then you're picking up.
Is that like forced?
Yeah. They
Makes
call
it
them
tough, man.
mandatory staffing or force hire, or whatever your
that's what they call them.
Whatever your terminology is. But it's you're getting paid time and a half, but it's like I would rather keep all that and let me go home to my family.
Yeah.
That was why I took this job, so I'd have more time at home.
Yeah. Same.
It
does take a toll when you have the little ones, you know what I mean? When I wake up in the morning and your daughter's crying, like,
oh, bro,
Daddy, don't go to work, like crying, pulls on your heartstrings, and you're like, yeah. And like I said, that's where a strong woman, Amanda, my fiance, she's been amazing. And we've been together a long time. We've had a lot of crazy things happen, like she had a really bad injury in 2019. We were up in Big Bear, up at Snowplay, where that's at?
Yeah.
Tubing, and we get up there like in the afternoon. It was just at the time we hadn't had our twins yet. It was me and her and my son, and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Snow was kind of sticky, so we went down. We all got stuck. Like we get stuck mid slope, whatever, and we're like, oh, that was kind of lame. So we get back up, ride the little magic carpet thing back up there, and then just my son went first, and he kind of disappears over the little rollers, and then I gave her a push. And then she's like hauling ass, dude. And then he gets stuck again, because he's light. And she's coming right at him, and she's going to take him out. So she was like digging her heels in the snow and just got ejected out of the tube and just ended up getting knocked out, like blew out the bottom of her eye socket.
Oh, my gosh.
Ended up having like 2 surgeries that year, I mean, you'd never be able to tell by looking at her. I mean, she's beautiful, but like, she jacked herself up pretty good, And so that was 2019, like beginning of 2019. And then, I was working full time, had to take some weeks off because she had some surgeries. And then my sister passed away, like, I don't know, a month after, like within that same month, I think it was.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing was pretty tragic. And then I ended up breaking my neck for the second time, like in March of that year. So we've been through a lot. We have no support system. So she's like, and then we found out we were pregnant with the twins, like had a.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. We'll touch on that because I didn't know you had twins until I saw a picture.
Yeah, and so we found out. Shoot, I don't remember if it was before she got hurt, but we knew we were pregnant. And then like 6 weeks later, she was having abdominal pain. I'm sitting at work, and she's like, "Are you sitting down?" And she's like, "There's baby A and baby B," And I'm like, "What?" Like we knew she was pregnant, but I had no idea it was twins. So
you guys didn't do any kind of.
No, in vitro or anything.
Nothing like that.
No, because they're identical, like mono-di-identical twins. So that's not hereditary or like, it was just like a blessing. Obviously they're amazing, you know what I mean? But like at the time it was kind of a shock, like expecting maybe one more kid and ended up with 2 more, got a twofer, and they're pretty wild, man. Like they're pretty wild. My son is amazing, straight A student, like Jax, he's the best kid ever. Like, I don't think I've ever had to spank him or discipline him.
Is that right?
Super polite, just a straight A student, honor roll student every year. I'll show you some of the artwork he does. He's like 12 now, but he's like amazing artist.
Dang.
Just a bunch of talent, like super, super smart. All his teachers have always loved him, and then my daughters are like the complete opposite. Like they're just wild. Tornadoes. They big personalities. They don't want to listen. They're like, if anybody in the family wants to ride dirt bikes, like they're going to ride dirt bikes, like they already talk about it. And,
yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, we had a lot happen, and, it kind of all ties back to just having like that strong family foundation.
So her family's not out here?
No, her family's in Texas, her mom and sister in Texas, and my parents moved back obviously. So we don't have a support system, and, like you had mentioned, she does hair and everything, and she's amazing at it, but, we don't want to put our kids, my daughters are 4 years old, and we're not going to put them in daycare right now and spend $4,000 to $5,000 a month putting them in daycare. So she still works, and takes care of them, and she has the way harder job, because she's they're running around the house, destroying the house, and you know, she's just taking care of them. Like they're a full-time deal, you know.
I mean, my girls are 14 months apart. They're Irish twins.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you give me the option of going to work or staying home and taking care of them at that age, bye.
Yeah. Work's definitely easier. You get more of a break at work, but it's still stressful, you know, being at work, and it's just you gotta, you know, you gotta provide, and you know, you got a family, a lot of mouths to feed, and that was
dude.
Like,
that's the stress of being, you know, a man, and like that's our calling, right?
Yeah.
Like to provide for your family.
Yeah.
But it does suck when you're like, well, my sacrifice to take care of my family is that I don't get to see my family.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
That's the hard part,
and it's hard on them too. You know what I mean? Especially with the kids, and it's like, when I'm at home for an extended period of time, I feel like our relationship gets a lot better, you know, we spend good quality time, like things feel like more normal, you know, and it's just, you know, it's not always going to be like that, but you know, like everyone's situation is different, whether you're dual income or not, which, you know, we are, but it just, you know, she's not able to work as much as she could, you know, she'd be killing it, you know what I mean? And, but man, she, after that, you know, it happened on a mountain bike, the second broken neck, the year of 2020.
Yeah. What happened?
So you and I were like you know, like I bought a mountain bike, and we were hitting Greer, and we were like, so I had like an enduro style bike to just for PT and training and for fun. And then I bought like a 26-inch dirt jumper and would go out to the pump track over there in Temecula. You know, they have the pump track, like rip around that thing.
Yeah.
And then me and the oldest, Gavin, you know, we started like building some jumps by our house, and we were riding quite a bit, which was cool because him and I kind of bonded a lot, you know, and, like he's super athletic, and he's great. You know, he rides, you know, he has a 450 that he rides, and super good on two wheels. He's got a lot of talent. And so we were just shoveling jumps, and we started going to some of the dirt jumps in the local area too. And it was like when COVID hit, we were just cooped up in the house, you know, and we were just losing our minds. We're like, dude, let's just like load the kids up. We took the whole family out. My neighbor and his kids went out, and we just loaded up all the bicycles and like went out to these dirt jumps over in like, you know, Sun City, like Menifee area. And some of these jumps were pretty big, but at that point I started getting comfortable jumping again. And we were there all day long, like 3-4 hours, just everyone's, you know, lockdowns and stuff. So we're just outside having fun. And there's like 10 other dudes out there riding. And somebody said, let's film a COVID train. So we all, like 10 of us, you know, are like in this train, and I'm following some dude on a BMX bike. And there's a pretty big double, you know, it was like a double section at the end of this rhythm section. And he was like going a little bit slower than what I was used to hitting on that dirt jumper, but I'm like, I think I still got it. And I just went for it and came up short, back wheel tagged on the top, rode the whole front wheel all the way down, and then went head first into the next takeoff. So it was like hitting up like a wall, like head first, like, you know, brick wall head first. And it just shattered my C1 and broke my C2.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And like I knew instantly, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened again. I was like in such denial and like such shock. Like I think I tried to stand up, but I was like so dizzy, I almost passed out. And like, and that one was gnarly, dude. That one was like way worse than the first one, you know.
Really?
I was 40 years old. Probably shouldn't have been on a, you know, dirt jumper bike at 40, but it was a good outlet, you know. It was like a lot of fun to just ride again. I was thinking about buying a dirt bike again at that point and just getting back into that, but yeah, that one did me in, dude. And it's like,
so what they do for those? Fuse those, or?
So for that one, I remember the neurosurgeon didn't come to the hospital because of the lockdowns, and he was scared of getting COVID. So they should have put me in a halo right away, but they ended up just sending me home after like a week. I was spent like a week in the ICU, and I went home in a seat collar or neck brace. And I just remember being at home, like feeling all the instability and like these grinding noises in my head. Yeah. And like this clicking, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right here, you know, like my neck was all like cocked to the side. And so I ended up going back to Dr. Kramer, the one that did my first surgery, you know, and, you know, he was like, his first question was like, how come you're not in a halo? And I was like, well, they told me that, because there was no ligament damage, there's like a transverse ligament. They look at that, and they look at the alignment of your vertebrae to like determine whether they're going to do like surgery and like an internal, whatever they call it, or like external stabilization. And then he ended up, it took me like a couple weeks to get him like all my imaging. And then he's like, dude, you like you're having cranial settling, like your skull is kind of crushing down on your C1, and it's like the spacing that's supposed to be there is not there. And so the only options were either to do like a full infusion, infuse my entire neck, which I would have been done, you know, like working, or to do a halo and see like after like 4 months in a halo to see if like that was enough to like stabilize it to where it should be, you know? And so like from the time I broke my neck, it was like 2 months until I saw him or got the halo, 4 months in the halo and another month or two in a neck brace after that. So it was like 8 or 9 months. And she's pregnant with twins, like a high risk pregnancy. And I'm stuck on the couch like for 8 months, dude. Like, you know, and like I had to be super careful because I couldn't mess anything up. The doctor, even Kramer, was like, hey, we have to wait and see. Like every visit, every like 6 weeks or 2 months, it was like wait and see. So I didn't know if I was going to have to get that surgery. And I know I have 2 twins on the way, 2 other kids, you know, like a family to support. It was a rough time, man. It was like just the unknown of just like, hey, am I going to be able to provide for my family? Like you talked about being the man, you should be the provider, and like, you know, being in that situation. And like when I said she stuck by my side through a lot, and like she handled everything when she was pregnant, you know? So, you know, I just have like a strong, you know, like connection with her because like, that's how you know, somebody sticks by you through thick and thin, and you guys go through some stuff like that together. It just like makes you stronger. And,
it's a good one.
Yeah. And we had a lot of good people, you know, that the department that I work at that kind of kicked in and helped financially and stuff, you know. When I was out, I burned through all my time and everything like that. So they took good care of us. And, yeah, it was a rough time, but now like being on the other end of it, like, you know, we just feel like we can handle anything, you know what I mean? It builds a lot of resiliency. And I think motocross in general teaches you that, you know? So it's like, you know, if anything, like hearing our story, hopefully it inspires other dudes that maybe, you know, they might not make it, you know what I mean? And just give them hope that there is hope in the future to be able to, you know, just move on with your life and kind of, you know, make it at whatever else you try to do and be successful, you know? So
that's gnarly. I didn't know you had so much stuff happen in that little window, man. That's crazy.
It was a lot, you know, and it was just
definitely
testing time.
Were you worried the department was going to retire you?
Well, it wasn't a workers' comp deal, you know what I mean? So, because it happened off duty. And so I was seeing my own doctor, and as long as I just once I healed up, and like once he gave me the green light, that was the like best day ever, right? Like hearing like I don't need to have it fused, and it's stabilized where it's at. So I just had to get myself back in shape, and you know, like he signed me off, and you know, to go back to work, and then the doctors at work sign you off and all that stuff, and you pass the physicals and go through all that stuff, and you're good to go. So, yeah.
Were you an engineer at the time, or were you still?
I was an engineer. Yeah, I had just promoted that year in 2019.
And that's like a 2-month academy that you got to go to up north, right?
Up north. So like, that year where she got hurt, you know, she had 2 surgeries that year. I was gone for 2 months doing that, and then and then all that stuff happened like the very next year. So
that's a lot, man.
It was a lot, but yeah, we're still here, still going, you know. So
well, and you know, one of the I gotta believe, I don't know statistics, but I gotta believe in the fire service, the divorce rate's through the roof. I mean, most of the guys I know don't stay with their wives because you're never home, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, what's the point then? You know, you're doing this to provide for your family, and then your family comes apart because of it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason they have 3 platoons, because you need that time to decompress. You know, we see some stupid stuff, dude.
Yeah. I mean, when you're there, even if you're not running the calls, you know, like you're just like on a higher alert status, I guess, you know. I don't know like what the correct terminology would be, but you're like heightened sense of awareness, you know what I mean? And it like, and it's kind of like that cumulative stress, because it's like you're always ready, you don't know what you're going to get. And it's like when you're there for 8-9 days and you come home, it's like day one can be kind of rough sometimes to unwind and just kind of get back in the home life, you know what I mean?
We write the first day off.
Yeah, you're kind of like irritable, you're just a little like on edge a little bit, you know, and it takes a little bit to kind of just settle back into the family, normal everyday life routine, and then you're back again doing it all over again. So
we kind of were joking and laughing about, you know, before the show, like we both worked so hard, we put in so much work to get this job, and now we're both kind of like, how can I get out?
A little side hustle.
What else can I do, you know? And I'm going as hard as I can on this media thing, trying to build it, but it's
I'm hoping Bitcoin blows up, man. I need a 10x, you know.
I love the job, or loved what it was.
Yeah,
it's just changed. Like all of our rights have been taken away trades are basically non-existent.
Yeah.
They've cut the amount of vacation days. All of these things basically so they have a bigger pool to force from.
Yeah.
But it's all of the things that made the job so awesome, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely changed in that regard. Like staffing's, like it's just the forcing being away from the family. Other than that, it's when it starts affecting your family life and, affecting your relationships with your kids, that's where you kind of, become a little more introspective and be like,
well,
how can, because that's like you said, the last thing you want to do is lose your kids or family over the job, so. Well,
the last time that I was off just briefly for a hand injury. And when I was home, you kind of like get caught up on things around here, around the house, and you, get back into, hey, what's going on in your guys' lives? I feel like I haven't been here.
Yeah.
And I said to my girls, I said, hey, do you guys feel like I'm gone a lot, or am I home, like more than most dads? Because when I went after this job, it was like, okay, if I work 10, maybe 12 days a month, pick up a couple overtimes, man, I'm home 18 days a month. That's rad. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's not how it's panned out. And I said, you guys think I'm home a lot? And they go, Dad, you're never home.
Yeah. Who are you? Dad? Who? Dad who?
And dude, it was like a knife in my heart. I was like,
how old were they at the time when this was?
This was 3 years ago. So they were 14, 15,
okay.
Really formative years, I mean, teenage girls need their dad around.
Yeah. And you're missing, like, you're missing sports. You're missing like so many major events, right? Like birthdays, holidays, Christmases. And
this is, like, I'm not poo-pooing
no.
My department or the job is just what it is.
Yeah.
It's just what it's become because there isn't the demand. People don't want to go do this job much anymore.
Yeah.
And I hope it'll change. I hope there'll be a resurgence, but like, it's been tough.
Yeah, 100%.
And
I think that like every department's feeling the same thing,
Yeah.
They're all going through the same. Because you meet guys all the time and they work at city departments, smaller departments, whatever, like they're kind of all in the same boat. So
yeah, it's just weird. Like I have a cousin who works for Billings Fire, and 2 cousins actually work for them, and they don't have vacancies. He goes, I might get 2 or 3 overtimes a year.
Really? Yeah. So
like,
they had
there's no such thing as
the opposite problem though.
The opposite problem. They're wanting more money, right? And working extra shifts, and but they're just full.
Yeah.
And so I tell them what we're going through, and they're just like, dude, that's crazy. Like that's unheard of.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's nice making extra money, but at what point is it worth it? It's kind of like a fine line between just having a good balance. You know what I mean? You got to have that good family work-life balance, and when it becomes lopsided or the scales tip one way or the other, it just creates issues.
So what? Tell me about these twins. How old are they? 4?
They're 4. Yeah. Kendall and Cameron. Dude, they're just wild. Like
you're in for it,
they're
dude.
adrenaline junkies. Like at 2, they're already front flipping off the grotto into the pool. Like they've already been to the ER like 2 or 3 times getting CT scans. They love, like, their brother. He rips his 450 down the neighborhood, and he'll go 4th gear, and they're just holding on, and they're just like, again. Like, they just.
Oh, my gosh.
They're like, Dad, I want a motorcycle. And they're just like.
Why don't you get them into surfing?
Yeah.
Do you surf anymore?
No, I haven't. Just golf now, dude. That's pretty much it.
That's your jam?
Yeah. We try to golf, like me and the lady. It's kind of our thing. If we can get, like, a date day, like get the babysitter. And, like she comes out.
Is she any good?
No, she's. Yeah.
I want to get my family golfing because I think it would be fun to do.
Yeah. She has a pretty good swing. It's just, she needs some lessons, and like it's kind of expensive for us to both play all the time. But she just likes hanging out, and that's kind of like our time to get away. We'll go to dinner after and stuff. But
you got to go to the beach, dude, and surf. Get your kids. You get a foam board. It's cheap.
We're going to start doing the beach. That was like my son was like, hey, can we do a different beach like this summer? On the summer break, he wants to try like a different beach every week. So he's got like a little boogie board, and like at least get him started on that. And like we got to find something for him, because they're.
Hey, those $100 Costco foam boards?
Yeah,
my favorite
worth
board.
their weight in gold, huh? Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah,
I think they're a couple $100.
Are you still going
all the time? Yeah. Well, from like July to October.
Yeah,
I'm a summertime surfer.
But. Well, we used to go all the time.
I know. This is one of my favorite stories. I tell this all the time. And Eddie Casillas, was kind of like dad to all of us, know.
Yeah.
But we were surfing one day. I think it was Oceanside. I can't remember. And there was a really strong current. Remember, water was just moving really strong, and you were getting pushed into the jetty. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You were freaking out, dude, paddling so hard. Guys, hey, help! It's pushing me in. And Eddie, Mr. Military medic. He comes charging in, paddles over to you, hops off his board. He's going to Hasselhoff you, and the water's up to his waist.
He's
He
like,
goes,
put your feet down.
Stand up, dude.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Yeah. I wasn't freaking out, dude. I'm like,
Oh, man, I love that story.
So funny. Yeah.
Well, we asked two things. We got our Ethica Choni check. I've got some Ethica stuff for you here, so we'll send you away. We've got hats, all kinds of stuff. Guys, get over to Ethica if you're looking for some new gear. WhiskeyThrottleMedia gets you 20% off at checkout. So we'll dial in with some socks and hats and some stuff for the fam.
Appreciate that.
And then kind of our last question we ask is how you want to be remembered in the sport.
I haven't thought about, like, man, until you give me a call. You gave me a call the other day. Like, I don't think about it much, And like I said, I was a little embarrassed to come on here because it's like, yeah, I had a couple decent seasons or good rounds, but like compared to a lot of the people you have on here, like I felt like my career was nothing to brag about. So, I just want to be remembered for a guy that, when he was racing, like tried his best, did everything he could, to get good results. And, I was just lucky enough to do this for a living. That's kind of what I want to be remembered for, is the guy that like can inspire other people to where, racing might come to an end one day. Just enjoy it as long as you can. Put 100% effort into it. Don't get distracted. You don't want to have any regrets when you're done, and just have as much fun with it, because one day it will end and you're going to realize that you got to travel the world. You got to do what you did for a living, what you love for a living. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. So just savor it. And I guess that's it, man. And just want to be remembered for just being a good family man and taking care of my family at this point.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I hope your luck changes. I mean, it seems like it's going the right direction lately, but
yeah, everything's
you guys went through some hard times there.
Yeah, we did, and can't complain. Like I said, it just makes you stronger, and it makes you realize the people you have by your side, just how solid they are, and it's just life lessons, man. You just got to keep going.
One thing I wanted to get into the fire service for was I just felt like I wanted to do something more significant, more profound than just like, what'd you do for a living? Oh, I rode dirt bikes.
Yeah.
I wanted something that like had an impact.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about the fire service, certainly law enforcement, military, like any first responder, really. I feel like that's something that when we look back down the road, whenever we decide to hang it up, you can definitely look back and go, I did good. I did good work.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had calls where,
and we talked about why we wanted to get into it, but once you're in it, and it's like you want to do the best for people you can, and you see them having their worst days.
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of goes back to what my preceptor, the analogy, like if it was your family, you'd want somebody showing up that had that good bedside manner, somebody that was competent, somebody that was gonna like take care of your family, right? And that's kind of what you aspire to be, because it's like when people call you, they're having their worst days, and you might have the pain in the ass patients or the frequent flyers, but when people really need your help and you're there to make a difference, it's a good feeling, So.
And I know you've had those calls, just like I have. I mean, the diabetics that their sugar's at 20, and you're like, dude, you almost died, and then you just push some dextrose, and there they are.
Yeah, signing the AMA, and I'm like, I'm good.
Eat this peanut butter sandwich, dummy.
Yeah.
But it's
no, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's like. When you're first getting into that, maybe you're not thinking about it as much, but it's kind of.
Well, I don't think you don't really know yet, because you haven't done the job. But like looking back now, whether it's car crashes, fires, like we've had stops where like we kept a booming garage fire to just the garage, and I'm like, man,
just save them how much money, and not being displaced. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Or we don't get a lot of CPR saves, but you've saved.
I've had a few, and
you've legit saved lives, man. And like that's something
I've had a few, and they come back, and like there's one guy that comes back and visits the station every year.
Is that right?
Yeah. So older dude, but had the big one, and we got him back, and then he comes back every single year to this day. Like this is like 6 years ago, 6 years ago. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you do for your community. I appreciate what you do for your family, man, and we need to stay in touch.
Yeah, we do, man.
Life just happens. There's nothing. Yeah. I hope you don't take it personally. We've kind of just like lost touch, but That's life.
Yeah, I'm not the best at it either. You know, it's like a phone call away, but yeah, we just get wrapped up in life and family and work, and it's kind of hectic. So
I honestly don't talk to anybody. If I have any days off, I just want to be with my family. You know, so
same. So
thanks
for having me out, man,
brother.
Appreciate it.
I love you.
Yeah,
like I said, my whole
time.
20s was with you.
I know,
hanging out.
Yeah, we got a lot of history for sure. So
a lot of fun times. So.
Yeah, right on.
Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Stick around. We'll be back to wrap up the show. Yamaha is the industry leader in two-wheeled fun and performance. Celebrating 50 years of YZ in 2024, the Blue Crew is still dominating shootouts and competitions. Yamaha, revs your heart. Troy Lee Designs is the leader in off-road motocross apparel and style. So whether you're looking for a cool new paint job for your helmet, maybe your name and number on your helmet lettered on, you're looking for new gear, you're looking for mountain bike gear, off-road gear. They've got the brand new Scout line and GP and SE models. Troy Lee Designs has it all. They've been leading this industry for decades, and they're going to continue to do it. Check out TroyLeeDesigns.com. SKDA is a moto graphics and seat covers company with several offices based around the globe. For too long, bikes and graphics have all looked the same. They just start to blend together. SKDA is working to change that. With super clean and unique design work, a bike with SKDA graphics stands out in a crowd and adds a touch of art to the world of moto. Hey, we need that. SKDA prides itself on providing premium customer service both before and after the sale is made. Visit SKDA online to view the current product range and get in touch with their team to get your bike refreshed. I want to just make a mention here that these guys, not only is their design way outside the box, very, very cool. They'll work with you on custom things. The products are incredible. Okay, they'll speak for themselves. But what's really awesome, and you'll notice this the minute you order one of these, man, they give you an email saying, hey, the product's been shipped. Hey, the product is here. It landed in this spot. Hey, it's coming today. Hey, your product's been delivered. They just so good about staying in touch with you and letting you know where it's at. Customer service is 100%, and that's just something that's rare these days. Check out SKDA. Here at the Whiskey Throttle Show, we're all about supporting brands that support our sport. And there's one tire company that has never walked away from the sport of motocross and supercross, and it's Dunlop. When times got tough and the economy took a crash, Dunlop stepped up and stayed with our sport to support it and the athletes and individuals that love it. Their MX53 line and MX33 lines absolutely dominate this sport. Every national championship at the pro level has been won in the last decade, and nearly every single amateur national championship at Loretta Lynn's has been won on a Dunlop. So if you're looking for high performance, you're looking for amazing quality, and you're looking to support a brand that never turns its back on our sport, there's only one choice for you, and it's Dunlop. All right, Whiskey Throttle fam, we've got a sponsor here that I want to really encourage you guys to try, Element. If you haven't seen this stuff before, give them a check out on our Instagram bio. You can get in there. We've got a link that will give you free samples. You can go in and try this stuff. And this delivers just the right amount of electrolytes that you need when you're competing at all, especially if it's midsummer, humid, think Loretta Lynn's, Nationals. You're sweating like crazy. This is the best way to replenish it, okay? Straight water is just going to flush more electrolytes out of your body, cause more cramping. You've got to get the electrolytes back in. This Element provides it in the perfect package with 0 sugar. It is vegan, keto, paleo-friendly, gluten-free. This is the perfect product for athletes or those pretending to be athletes. So it was designed by Rob Wolf. This guy is a crazy smart dude working in the science field. Was developing for his own use in athletics, and he came up with the perfect formula. This stuff's awesome. This right here, the citrus salt, is my favorite. Of course, you can get it in a sample pack like this where you can try some different flavors, watermelon, orange, raspberry. Great stuff. Cannot recommend this enough. If you are racing, even at a local level, and sweating at all, which, come on, we all do on a dirt bike, you've got to have some of this stuff to replenish it right. Give it a try. Like I said, go to our bio on Instagram. You can find a discount code or a link that takes you directly to there, and we'll give you a free sample. Check it out. You're not going to want to miss that. Support these guys. They are fans of the sport, and we are so stoked to be partnered with them. Element is an incredible product that I use exclusively, and I'm so proud to have them part of the Whiskey Throttle Show. Pro Circuit is the leader in aftermarket performance and quality. Whether you're looking for a little more horsepower out of your engine, some quality hard parts to improve the way your bike feels and looks, better handling through suspension or linkage arms, Pro Circuit is where you need to stop. It's your one-stop shop. You can go in there and get everything you need to make your motorcycle go from average to exceptional. Pro Circuit's got enough number one plates on their wall to side an entire home, and there's a reason for that. They're very, very good at what they do. The highest quality products with one goal in mind, and that's winning. Check out ProCircuit.com. Nihilo Concepts is leading the way in aftermarket hard parts. With their secondary, if you are in the market for a new vehicle, look no further than Toyota of Redlands. You've got to support a brand that is supporting motocross big time. At the amateur level, pro level, they are part owners in the Bar X Yamaha racing team. They support a ton of riders individually, and they support us here at Whiskey Throttle Media. And I'll tell you what, the facility up there in Redlands is absolutely incredible. It's beautiful. The folks are friendly. They're professional. And if you've never owned a Toyota, you got to give it a try. It is the only brand that I'll drive anymore. If you're buying, there's nothing more reliable, nothing that holds its resale value better. And the folks at Toyota of Redlands are just they still remember what customer service is. I guess that's all I really need to say. Incredibly friendly, professional, and just talented staff up there. We're stoked to have them a part of the show. If you see the Whiskey Throttle truck around here, the Toyota of Redlands Tundra, give us a wave and a honk. But, man, just so stoked to have these guys on board. Like I said, anybody like that that's getting involved and supporting the sport, we just want to push as many people as we can to them because those folks are rare, and especially when they have an incredible product and provide an incredible service. So get up to Toyota of Redlands, California. If you're anywhere in southern United States, southwest United States, it's worth the drive. Get over there, check those guys out. Tell them the Whiskey Throttle Crew sent you. On-switch device, something that was much needed in this sport. They've been innovating and bringing new products to market. Their latest is the new Nihilo Run Cool brake pistons. They're designed to be stronger than stock and provide exceptional cooling performance with less brake drag. Most OEM calipers pistons are made from aluminum that just can't hold up to the heat and extreme demands of serious racing. When they get hot, the aluminum will distort, causing loss of hydraulic pressure and brake failure. Nihilo's Run Cool pistons limit the area that boiling hot hydraulic fluid is able to come in contact with the piston, leaving 2/3 of the piston volume in open air with breather holes to enhance the cooling ability. It's made of a proprietary stainless blend, which is better at dissipating heat. You have issues with brake fade or brake failure, check out Nihilo Concepts among their many amazing hard parts and carbon fiber parts and titanium. NihiloConcepts.com. Seat Concepts is the leader in motorcycle saddles. If you're looking for a new cover or a new seat entirely, Seat Concepts is the place to go. They make custom seat foams catered to your height, weight, riding ability, riding type. They also have waterproof covers and foams that will not break down if you ride in a lot of inclement weather. And they pride themselves on being much more comfortable than OEM or any other aftermarket company. If you're looking for a new seat or a new cover, Seat Concepts, there's nothing better. Guys, I want to introduce you to Rockform, and a sponsor of the Whiskey Throttle Show here that has just been blowing my mind with their products. They've got all kinds of, started as phone cases. This is their rugged phone case here that I've got, which is just bulletproof. You could throw this thing out of an airplane, probably pick it up and be just fine. And on the back here, everything is magnetic, so it'll just stick to anything metallic, obviously. But this little locking device you've got in the back, this bolts onto handlebar mounts, car mounts, adhesive mounts, magnetic mounts, and it does not come off. It is locked in. I have no fear that my phone is going to pop off a handlebar on a street bike ride. And then I like the little sport ring they've got. They've got all kinds of devices that pop in here, but this thing acts as a stand. If you want to sit this thing up and watch something on your phone or work on it, just absolutely incredible. And this is magnetic as well. All kinds of amazing products, guys, for your phone. Kind of that's their primary function. They also have the G-Rock speaker. This is basically made for golf, and you just stick it to the frame of your golf cart and get after it. Got great tunes all day long. So a ton of products, but check out our boys at Rockform. These guys are killing it. I'm so stoked to be partnered with this brand. You know, we really pride ourselves on partnering with elite brands, really, really high-level companies, and Rockform is right on cue. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than Pro-X. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters, If it wears out, Pro X makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for the Polaris RZR 800s. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than Pro X. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters. If it wears out, Pro X makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for the... All right, so you had a tip over in the garage or at the track and you broke your lever off. What are you going to do? Go to Arc Levers, guys. They're the only people you need to check out in this space. Arc Levers, everything manufactured right here in the United States to craftsman precision. The stuff is awesome. Whether you're looking for an entire clutch perch with maybe a bigger wheel, they make the wheel super easy to find and adjust. Or maybe you just want replacement levers. They do that as well. Anything you're after, they can change the throw, the feel, everything you want, custom. They can make them feel different, look different colors. These guys are dialed, man. They've got all kinds of cool products. If you haven't been over to Arc Levers and seen what they've got, check them out. These guys are being run by factory Honda. If they're good enough for Jet Lawrence, I think you and I can probably make them work. The Star Racing Yamaha team, a lot of factory riders running them for good reason. They're the best products in the business. Check out Arc Levers. If you've got a little Grom that's looking to get started in the motorcycle world, the best way to get them going is on a Stasic bike. They've got multiple sizes, so from your very young Groms to those who are a little more grown up, you can start them safely. They've got controls that allow you to control the speed so he can't get going too quick. They can touch the ground. There's not a lot of noise to distract them. It's the perfect way to get your child involved in motorcycling at a very young age. And if you've got a kid who's already out ripping, there's series popping up all over. For those of you in Southern California, go to www.ameminicross.com and join their local series. If you're outside of this state, contact your local track and ask them about starting a Stasic class at your local track. Get over to Stasic.com and check out all they've got going on. If you're considering a facelift for your dirt bike, look no further than TBD MX. TBD MX offers fully customizable graphics. Whatever you want to put on there, it's up to you. You're the boss. You want a military theme? No problem. Give them an idea of what you're after and they'll make it. You want to put unicorns on there? Well, that's super weird, but he'll do it for you anyway. They use the highest quality materials cut to the exact die lines for easy installation, which, if you've ever put graphics on, you know is important. No bubbles, no creases. They fit perfectly. And they offer fast service and shipping, so you're not waiting around forever to get your bike dialed in. So stop looking like a dork at the track. Go to tbdmx.com and get yourself dialed in with a set of graphics that you want, with your sponsors and the things you want to see on it. TBDMX making the best graphics in motocross, and the Whiskey Throttle Media crew and the Whiskey Throttle Show is stoked to be partnered with TBDMX. Follow them on Instagram, give them a follow, and follow along with all of our bike builds as we feature the TBDMX graphics on all our builds. And finally, last but not least, Specialized Bicycles. If you are in the market to start pedaling, this is where you want to start. They've got great entry-level bikes all the way up to the Cadillac, the new Levo e-bike, anything in between, man. It doesn't matter what kind of riding you're doing. Go check out and start with Specialized. Don't waste your time on something that's going to break. The derailler's not going to shift after a couple months. Get something quality. These guys make it. Specialized leads that industry. Every good podcast show has got to have an underwear sponsor, right? Well, we went right to the top, Ethica. These guys make the best underwear. If you haven't tried a pair, you don't know what you're missing. Your life hasn't even started yet. So try a pair of Ethicas on. Go to Ethica.com. Use our code WHISKEY20. Get you 20% off. And give all of your nether regions a break, man. It's vacation time for the boys. These things are comfortable. You're riding. Your butt's not going to get all chafed. These things are awesome. And guess what? They don't just make underwear. No. Tees, hats, beanies, sweatshirts, shorts for kids, ladies, toddlers, old people, everybody. You name it. They make them. You know what else they make? Moto gloves. I didn't even know that. I just found it out. So get over to Ethica.com. Check them out. These guys are awesome. Whiskey20. Use our code. Don't cheat me now. Get 20% off and put your buns in the best undies around. Ethica.com. All right, the sun is shining. That means you guys need to find yourself a good pair of sunglasses and look no further than Rockwell. These guys are making some incredible shades right now. They're all designed here in the USA, made in Italy. Very, very high-end craftsmanship on these things. They've got so many different models for men's and women's styles. There's floatable glasses, so if you're out on a lake, on a boat somewhere this summer, go out, find yourself a pair of the floatable ones. They've also got wireframe. They've got wraparound. Anything you're after, any style, Rockwell makes it. We are also working on a motocross goggle that is going to be insane. We are in the development stages of that. I'm helping them with that, as is Justin Hill and a couple other guys. So stay tuned for that. That's coming. They also make all kinds of casual wear. Rockwell is getting it done in all kinds of markets. But the sunglasses, whoo, these things are next level. Check them out, rockwell.com. Thanks for checking out the Whiskey Throttle Show. If you guys liked it, be sure to like and subscribe so you get notified anytime we have a new show go up. You can also go over to WhiskeyThrottleMedia.com and check out all of the content, new bike builds, new bike introductions. We've got all kinds of features in the moto and off-road space, as well as all of the current Whiskey Throttle shows listed there. You can find our YouTube channel to get a complete list by season of all the shows we've done, well over 100 at this point. And also follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, like, subscribe, comment, all that junk. We'll see you guys. Thanks for supporting and tuning into the Whiskey Throttle Show, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed that show with Jiri Dostal. Good buddy of mine, and it's one of those deals where, you know, life happens and all of a sudden someone that was really a big part of your life you just drift apart. Nothing intentional, but great to reconnect with him, and really cool to go through his story. I think his whole life story is super interesting. Maybe didn't have all the success in racing that he wanted to, but still made it to a very high level. Anytime you're standing on the podium in Supercross, it's a big deal. So big thank you to him for taking the time to come in. And I want to thank a couple of our partners, Element. If you guys are not familiar with this stuff, I've got the citrus salt in here. That's my favorite flavor. And this stuff, man, just keeps me so much more hydrated. If you are racing, especially back east or in the south where it's super humid, man, this is a game changer. Give it a try. We've got a link in our Instagram bio up there where you can find a free sample. So check it out, try it out. And also Rockform, these are another new partner of ours. Loving this, all magnetic. You can mount this thing anywhere. It sets up as a stand. They got mounts for your motorcycle, your mountain bike, your car, absolutely anything you need. These guys are awesome. Check out rockform.com and support all our sponsors. You know, Yamaha has been behind us since the very beginning, motorsport.com. Just have the best people behind us, the most elite premium products, and we're really appreciative of that. So support them so we can keep these things coming to you. Thanks for watching. Follow us on all of our socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't miss anything we got coming out. Appreciate it. See you next time.